Here?
Here.
Commissioner Nocita, this microphone appears not to be working. We're going to have the flag salute, but the color guard of the Oregon City High School Junior ROTC are going to be bringing up the colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. The way we're going to proceed is this. We begin with citizen comments. I've got a list of comment forms here. I request that any comments directed to any items that aren't on the agenda be brought forward now. I think many of you are here to speak about the charter amendment for voter referral of urban renewal bond issues or related topics. We're going to ask you to wait until that agenda item comes forward. But any people that are speaking on items on the agenda that are not on the agenda, I'm going to call, and I'm going to call them in groups of five. Yes, you had a point? I thought you had. I'm going to call them in groups of anywhere from 5 to 6 or 7, and have you seated here at the empty seats. So when the time comes to cue you up to the microphone, it won't take so long. We won't have to wait so long for people to come from the audience. There are some things I'd like to ask. Tonight's meeting is being web streamed and is available on demand following the meeting from the city's website. The meeting is also being recorded for broadcast on Willamette Falls Cable TV. This meeting was moved to City Hall to the Pioneer Community Center to facilitate a large audience. The Commission will receive public comment during hearings scheduled for tonight's meeting. During each public hearing, the names of those who signed up to speak will be read. When your name is read, proceed to the waiting area and wait for your turn to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak to the commission. When the timer on the table turns red, your time is up. You'll get a warning light, I think, a minute ahead of time. Is that right? So you'll see a yellow light come up a minute before your time's up. Begin by stating your name and the residing city in which you live. You do not give your address, but the residing city in which you live. Into the microphone for the record. The commission does not generally carry on a dialogue with the speaker. If you did not sign up to speak upon entry, a call for further speakers will be made at an appropriate time. Our rules of conduct require commissioners, staff, and members of the public treat each other with dignity and respect at all times. As a presiding officer, I will be preserving order, discouraging attacks on personalities or impugning the commissioners' and citizens' motives, and confining commissioner debate to the question under discussion. A person in attendance at the meeting who become disorderly, abusive, and disruptive may be removed from the meeting. Our rules of conduct prohibit unreasonably loud, disruptive, and profane language. Clapping, cheering, or speaking out of order is discouraged. We thank you for your cooperation. And we'll go ahead and proceed now with a public comment. And I'll read the following names. If you come up, the first two can come up and take that I call. Will please come up and take the 2 seats at the table here. And the remaining people that I call, if you could take these empty seats to my left in the front. Jim, yeah, go ahead. Is there any issues?
Well, most of the audience now have the explanation of the 3 charter amendments that are on.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Well, I guess the request is for the explanation of the agenda and the 3 charter amendments that you might be wishing to address. So we'll let the city attorney take a moment to go ahead and describe those items on the agenda, if you would. Well, right now, so people aren't confused whether they come up at this time or a later time.
There are 3 proposed charter amendments before the commission tonight for public hearing. The first relates to the appointment of the city attorney by the commission, and that would amend section 11 of the charter, which would add the word city attorney in addition to city manager and municipal judge as officers of the city. There is also a discussion but no action on eliminating language to say and such other officers as the commission deems necessary. The second one has to do with the election process for the mayor and commissioners, and would basically have a 2-step process whereby all candidates would run in the May primary election, and if nobody gets a majority of the votes, 50% plus 1, then there would be a runoff between the top 2 candidates in the November election. If one candidate received the majority votes, 50% plus 1, that candidate would be declared elected. The third set of amendments has to do with the vote on urban renewal financing. It's a new charter provision which provides that the city commission, which has to approve an urban renewal plan, cannot do so unless there's a provision for a vote on any indebtedness that may be incurred. There are exemptions for that, for any indebtedness approved by the voters, for refunding existing bonds, and to finance written commitments of the Urban Renewal Agency already entered into at the time that the charter amendment was adopted. There are enforcement provisions so that no urban renewal plan would be valid unless unless financing were approved by the voters. And there would be certain technical amendments to conform the action in the charter with state law. If I can answer any questions now or later, I'd be glad to try.
Thank you. Okay, the first person I'll probably call up to 10 people. Jim Bernard, William Gifford, Lynn Wallace, Amy Vander, pardon me? Fleet, thank you. For a moment, I thought I was going to say the wrong name because there was another name that started with Vander. Dan Fowler, he's speaking for Ron Tom. Deborah Brownlee, Amber Holbeck, Damon Mabey, I think we have enough place to seat you. Carol Broom, and is it Tim Brown? Okay. The people that signed this form, and these have been presented to me, we understand are not speaking to items on the agenda. Now, if there may be confusion on that point, then we'll let them go ahead. But yes, Commissioner, do you wish to speak? And introduce yourself. And
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Commissioner Jim Bernard, Clackamas County Commissioner, and it pays to get here early. The River Project is about jobs. This project is about a strategic public and private investment. Please do not kill the potential for job opportunities for the residents of Oregon City. Please do not allow this innovative project to slip away. This project is one of numerous successes. The River Project is supported by Clackamas County Commissioners for a number of reasons. Using our jobs lens eyes, 300 construction jobs, 500 spin-off jobs will be created when this project starts. 1,500 family wage jobs will be created upon completion. Clackamas County unemployment rate is currently 9.8%, and the average income of a Oregon City citizen is $23,937. This redevelopment would open up opportunities for higher wages. The location is a brownfield site, and the developer will invest $38 million of their own money to mitigate this issue before the city chips in a single dollar. This is a great public-private partnership that will mitigate many issues, and this will happen before the city invests a dime. The $22 million jug handle improvement will improve public safety, pedestrian, and transportation access. This is a project Oregon City and the region has been working on for many years. This development of this site was instrumental in making this happen. This project will return $10 for every $1 invested by the public and generate over $25 million in property taxes over the next 20 years. The developer has already spent $8 million on this project. This project is one small part of Oregon City's dream, because much like Bridgeport Village, the Rivers Project will attract additional investments. So please don't fail to address the needs of unemployment for the workers in Oregon City and in the region. Thank you.
thank you. We're going to. I know the tendency is to wish to clap. I think maybe the best way we can handle this is perhaps after all speakers dealing with these issues can have a raise of hand or something. Otherwise, it takes more time. It's a bit distracting. Some of you that are here to speak to the rivers, you might do it. Make your reference to the actual charter amendment that's going to be discussed later. But those of you who are all up here, we'll go ahead and take those comments right now. William Gifford.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, my name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. And first of all, I want to thank you very much for moving the venue of this meeting to a larger facility. It was very generous of you. I appreciate that. I just have a quick observation that I want to make sure does not escape your acute eyes, and that is the size of this crowd, I would have to say, is comparable to the hearings that were held for the Walmart. I would just like to make out a distinct difference. Whereas many of those who were testifying for the Walmart were against the project, I would just want you to be aware that, and this is just my gut feeling, that I suspect that many of the people here tonight are for the project.
Thank you. Would Lynn Wallace and Ann Vandervliet, is that right? That's important. You'll correct me when you announce your name. I'm sorry.
I'm hoping we'll get two rounds of lights with this 16 minutes, but I think we'll do less than 6 minutes.
If you're ready to start, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Amy Vandervliet. I am the Oregon Employment Department's regional economist for the Portland metropolitan area, which is a 7-county area that does include Clackamas County, and I live in Portland. I'm here tonight with Lynn Wallace, who will introduce herself and speak in a few minutes. We're both here to provide what we believe might be useful background information to the Commission on the overall employment and unemployment situation in Oregon City and Clackamas County. While we are asked to attend this meeting by Mr. Gifford, I do want to emphasize that the role of the Employment Department's research section, of which we're a part, is to provide unbiased information and to help policymakers and elected officials such as yourselves make well-informed decisions. We're not here to advocate either for or against any plans or proposals that are before you. We're here only to provide data. And with that, I'll give a very brief overview of the economy, an example of what we do and the information that we have that may or may not be able to help you in your decision-making. And Lynn will talk more specifically in a bit about Clackamas County and Oregon City. But in terms of Oregon, in the Portland area, we were both hit harder in this Great Recession. Our unemployment rate skyrocketed from 5% statewide to over 11.5% statewide in just over 2 years. Since hitting that peak back in mid-2009, the rate's come down a bit, but it's been stuck at 10.5% for about a year now. We lost 150,000 jobs from start to end, and currently over 200,000 Oregonians are unemployed and looking for work. We've seen similar trends in the Portland area, skyrocketing unemployment rate, again over doubling, more than doubling from 5 to 11% in 2 years, and severe job losses totaling 87,000 jobs from start to finish. More recently, our economy appears to be on the road to recovery. We've added 12,000 jobs statewide, 15,000 jobs in the public sector, or in the private sector, I'm sorry, since hitting bottom, and Portland's added 5,000. So this is the sort of information we produce, and it's our job to crank out these numbers as quickly as possible, and I'll turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, my name is Lynn Wallace, and I reside in the unincorporated area of Milwaukee. I am a workforce analyst with the Oregon Employment Department, and I wanted to share some of the major points in the report that I handed out to you. As far as during the last 3 years, Clackamas County lost an estimated 14,500 jobs. Most were in construction, professional business services, and manufacturing, financial activities, and retail trade. Oregon City businesses make up 10% of the employment in Clackamas County. Over 1,000 businesses supplied nearly 14,000 jobs in 2009. The largest private sectors included healthcare and social assistance, retail trade, and accommodation and food services. The retail trade sector is relatively large in Clackamas County and Oregon City and makes up a higher portion of total employment than in the Portland metro area. Oregon City has nearly 17,000 people in its workforce, which is about 8% of the county's labor force. Currently, about over 1,800 Oregon City residents, or 10.8% of the workforce, are unemployed and looking for work. The Oregon City Employment Department's Job Match, iMatch Skills system shows that more than 3,000 Oregon City residents are currently registered in our system and seeking work or looking for improved job opportunities. 84% of the jobs within Oregon City are filled by people who live outside the city limits. 16% of people both live and work in Oregon City. That's just some of the high points of the report, and now I will turn our comments back to Amy, and she will wrap it up.
Okay, I'll just wrap this up quickly, but our intention is to paint a picture, a very quick picture of the Oregon City and the county economy that we hope can, at the very least, let you know what we do and better adds to your discussion. And I wanted to add that we're aware of the recent study regarding the impact of the river's development, and we're asked to comment on it. We haven't had the time or the resources to duplicate the work, but our state labor economist looked at the part that estimated the indirect job creation to the extent that he could and with the time that he had. And his opinion is that the indirect job creation estimate, or the multiplier effect that is mentioned in the report, appears reasonable for any similar project in accounting. And we're available, ready and willing to share information. Our contact information is on the bottom of those handouts there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Will the spokesperson for Ron Tom come forward? And also Deborah Brownlee.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Are you going to stay up here with me? For those, I won't go into that. Ron couldn't be here tonight, and he fully intended to be. He had an emergency at the last minute, so he emailed me this letter and asked me if I would have an opportunity to read it. Mayor Doug Neely, City Commissioner, City of Oregon City, regarding the Rivers Project. As a lifelong resident of Oregon City, like my parents, I have waited all my life for an economic development to happen in Oregon City. My years in city government taught me that one of the major problems for city funding is that more than 1/3 of the property is non-taxable. This is of course because Oregon City is the county seat, therefore the home of the city, the county, state, and federal offices, city, as well as churches and almost every other denomination, as well as schools and the community college. The only way to provide for an adequate tax base to support city services, including police and fire, schools, upkeep of our city sewers and streets, is to increase the tax base. Contrary to popular belief, this is not done by adding additional residential housing. In fact, it has a negative impact, i.e. it costs more by way of services and taxes collected. The Rivers Project not only provides a huge influx of capital, which would result in a tremendous boost in the tax base, but it would also provide more than 1,000 jobs during the construction of the project and the operation of the center after completion. This may be the last opportunity for positive growth in Oregon City, certainly in my lifetime. Please do not pass up this once-in-a-generation opportunity to make a positive impact in our city. Sincerely, Ron D. Tom, former mayor, city commissioner, City of Oregon City. Thank you.
Can you extend our thanks to Judge Tom, please?
Thank you. For the record, my name is Deborah Brownlee. My residence is 14562 Pittock Place, Oregon City.
Anybody else, just state your city and it will be sufficient.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to let you know that I am not a lifelong resident of Oregon City. I chose to live in Oregon City after having spent a military career with my ex-husband and moving 30 times. I was born in Hermiston, Oregon, and after living on the coast in Newport, I made a decision to move my daughter and myself here to Oregon City because of the people, because of the atmosphere, and because of the community. What was lacking was growth. And when we heard of the opportunity that the Rivers presented, we made the choice, my husband and I, to build a home here in Oregon City up the hill from the future site, hopefully. I believe what this Rivers Project will bring to the community at large for parents with children in high school are entry-level jobs. We need those entry-level jobs to create the work ethic that resides here. We need the growth opportunity that families can build on. Residents of Oregon City, as you hear, choose to live here. They don't want to leave, and they want their children and their children's children to reside here. So we ask that you truly consider not only the job opportunity, but the future growth of families and the longevity and the heritage. I know that growing up in Hermiston, we used to talk about the Oregon Trail, and we would visit this. And now here I am residing in Oregon City, truly experiencing those people who chose to move from what Oregonians call back east, here to the West Coast. And they were the cutting-edge people. They were the ones that weren't going to stop in Chicago. They weren't going to reside in Missouri. They were coming out west to be cutting edge and set the trail, make a mark. And I believe that's what the Rivers Project can do for this city. And I would strongly urge that you listen to the residents. Their presence here, although people may not be stepping up to speak, their presence physically tells you that they strongly support this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber Holbeck and Damon Mabey, please. Thank you so far for sticking within your time limits.
Good evening. I'm Amber Holbeck. I live in unincorporated Oregon City, and tonight I'm representing the Oregon City Chamber. You'll hear from me later on one of the big topics, but at this point, Mayor Neely and City Commission, I wanted to congratulate all of you on what I understand was a successful commission retreat this last weekend, and show appreciation, too, to our city managers and senior city staff in making sure that there was a training provided. What I've learned is that we each come to the table with our own individual expertise, our own individual passions. Sometimes we need a little bit of guidance and direction to kind of pull us together as a team and to be able to talk the same issues and those kinds of things. So my hat's off to you. Additionally, I wanted to share my appreciation publicly for the support that the Oregon City Chamber received recently for our annual dinner, which includes our our yearly awards. And thanks to Commissioner Roth, Commissioner Mumm, Commissioner Smith, and Mayor Neely for your participation in that event. We did award Business Person of the Year to Mary Hines of My Mother Knows Greetings and Gifts, Community Enhancement Award to our very own Main Street, Oregon City, Business of the Year to Forte Floral, New Chamber Member of the Year to Park and Electric, and Chamber Citizen of the Year, William Gifford Small Flags. So I hope that a lot of these names are common to a lot of folks here in this room and throughout the community, and our hats off to them for all of their efforts in being part of a positive business community. And then last but not least, to wrap up my comments at this point, the Chamber is honored to host the State of the City Luncheon on Friday, February 18th at 11:30 a.m., and it will be Mayor Doug Neely's first State of the City, so you will not want to miss it. More information to follow. Thank you.
Real quick, where will it be held?
Held at Pacific Crest Grand Ballroom in our downtown. I think it's a nice way to carry over the success of our Main Street.
Thank you. First, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the NJROTC, or the JROTC, not Navy. They did a wonderful and very professional job, and I really appreciate that.
I just heard Army.
Yeah, I know. It's the other guys. Being Navy, you know, they're... Anyway, and to direct my comments, I have a concern tonight in relation, actually, to the amendments, and that is that part of the record that, at least online, the part of the record that you'll be adopting is excerpts of the January 19th, excerpts of the minutes of the January 19th meeting. Those, at the time you'll be hearing 6A or 6C, D, and E, they won't be, those minutes will not be adopted yet. So excerpts of those minutes would not necessarily be appropriate to be part of the record at that time. So what I would request or suggest is that you move adoption of the January 19th minutes up to, like 6A, so that they then become part of the record, primarily because that record is fairly abridged from the full volume of comments. And I've made some of those comments. I can attest that they're abridged. And then also I'd like to specifically request that at some point somebody states that the video record of the meeting is be appended as part of the record should any of this go to any sort of appeal or anything, not the excerpts, but the actual full video minutes be the record.
The minutes you referred to again were which ones? 19?
Yeah, 8E is the minutes of the regular meeting, and then I saw online that part of your record for 6, C, D, and E are excerpts of those minutes, so
Okay,
I think they need to be adopted before.
Okay, thank you. Carol Brown and Tim, is it Brave or Brower? Brown, Tim Brown, and Dan Holliday.
Well, my name is Tim Brown, and I live in Oregon City. I've lived here my whole life. I found out about this meeting about 6 o'clock. Several people were calling me up, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the subjects I haven't heard yet. I don't know a lot about the issues that people have been talking about, but I would just like to talk about what I know. And with the River Project and the thought of having Cabela's coming to our city is huge. And a lot of people I know don't really know if you understand how big this is. And are any of you sportsmen or sportswomen or yourselves?
I jog occasionally.
Okay. Okay. So I guess I have to try to stand up for some of the people who are. And so this is what I know. I'm a small business owner here in Oregon City, and I visit the Lacey Cabela's probably 8 to 12 times a year at least since they've gone in. And I have clients that are all over the nation that visit me, as well as Africa, Asia, and Europe. And the first thing that they always ask when they visit is, "Where's Cabela's? Can we visit Cabela's?" So what I'm doing is I'm finding myself taking a tour up there quite a bit. And what I know is that we spend money on fuel, we spend money on food, and we spend money on hotels in and around the Cabela's area, depending on the time that we're traveling. And so that's important to me as an Oregonian, and you know, living here in Oregon City, is I realize the type of money that one company or just the attraction itself is going to bring to this city. And that's what it is. It's like a Disneyland for sportsmen. And I take people in from the college and high school students that are interested in my line of work. And one thing we do is we go up there. It gives people, the artwork that they have in that store alone allows people to see animals that they only get to see on TV. Like I said, I didn't have time to put anything together here. Because of the line of business I am in, if that store were to go in, it's a possibility that I may be able to employ up to 20 individuals for at least a year, just getting it ready. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand that this is more than just a store coming in. It is an attraction. People from Central Oregon would be traveling here a lot. They already do, and we take off and we spend our money in other states. Whenever we travel abroad, my friends and family, we visit these stores in these different states. That's something we look forward to. So that's basically what I had to say, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Appreciate it. We're going to go ahead for the adoption of the agenda. I was going to make a couple of suggestions, one based on David Mabey's request is to follow up the minutes. I assume that's appropriate given what the record is. And that we consider Oh, Dan Holliday. Oh, that's right, sorry.
My name's Dan Holliday. I'm a resident of Oregon City, former city commissioner, former school board member, and I currently chair the Clackamas Cable Access Board, which is why I'm standing behind that camera over there. I wanted to say tonight in this meeting pretty much the same thing I said at the renewal meeting, and that is that on these three charter amendments, taken as a whole, that the process is very important. And given the rush to judgment of, we seat two new city commissioners and literally in the same meeting or the next meeting we throw these new charter amendments on the table, and we're trying to get them rushed through by the end of January or the end of February. It's a bad idea. We haven't had any kind of opportunity for the Citizens Involvement Council, any of the neighborhood associations, the Chamber of Commerce. There hasn't been any discussion, any real discussion within any of the citizenry of Oregon City. And I think the crowd behind me can attest to the fact that even though there are some opinions up there that say that the whole paradigm has changed and you're going to force through a new agenda and that you campaigned on these issues, I think the fact is that the majority of the people behind me are for the rivers and opposed to these charter amendments. So I would suggest that the best thing you could do is take a step back, add some process, take your time, let folks have input, and if you're going to do any of these, that you do them very carefully and you allow enough discussion to avoid any possible unintended consequences. Thank you.
I also have Linda Bell. Linda Bell, available? Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Linda Bell. I'm a resident of West Lynn, but a business owner here in Oregon City. And some of what I read in the paper today said you weren't sure, some of you, that the business owners in downtown Oregon City were in favor of the rivers. And I just wanted you to see someone who owns a business 6 months old that is planning to stay here and needs things like the rivers to help us drive customers to downtown Oregon City. One other comment that I have that I haven't heard other people talking about has to do with the perception that people outside of this Oregon City community have of this city. Our Fiber Arts Studio is bringing people from other parts of the metropolitan area to downtown Oregon City. They almost always come with a poor perception of what Oregon City is about. Putting the rivers in Oregon City will do tremendous things to change the public's perception about what kind of a place this is. Not that it is that kind of place, but it is the perception that people have in the greater region of metropolitan Portland. Also, the gentleman talked about the number of trips he takes to Lacey. Some of you know that I spent a lot of years in tourism, and one of the first things I ever said to Fred Bruning back when he started talking about the rivers was that my dream from tourism's perspective would be that Cabela's would come to his shopping complex. He said, "No way, Linda, they take too much space, I can't do it." So I am thrilled to have the opportunity for Cabela's to locate here in Oregon City. You will see hotels and motels built, and you will see room tax collected from people that come from many, many miles away to visit Oregon City just because of Cabela's. I believe, as Dan just said, that you need to be very careful about the charter amendments. Take careful time to consider what the implications are for everyone. And I also, as I said in my letter to all of you, I believe you were elected and you were appointed, the people, to the Urban Renewal Commission to make the decisions for us, the voters. We had our say when we elected you to take care of business for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to repeat, you've been pretty good up to this point to avoid clapping. I said we will later on have the opportunity to have a raise of hands in terms of the Rivers Project. We're adopting the agenda. I'm going to make a broad suggestion that we move the charter amendments forward and then speak of the charter amendment for voter referral of the urban renewal bond issues, if that's all right with the rest of the commission?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I got head nods. And then, prior to that, we'll bring the adoption of the minutes of 19/2011 before we enter those charter discussions. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Did our city recorder catch who did that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we'll go into the public hearings. And the first item that we'll cover then is charter amendment for voter referral of urban renewal bonds issues. Mr. Sullivan.
Sorry. Well, I did explain it a bit before. I'll do it again. This amendment would require that financing by bonded indebtedness of any urban renewal project be preceded by a vote. It exempts certain things that we've exempted in other areas before, such as local improvement districts and refunding existing obligations. It adds an additional exemption for those commitments which the city has entered into previously. My understanding is that we've issued $10 million in bonds. It would not affect that. It would not affect also an arrangement that has been made for the Cove project, under which the city has agreed to lay out a certain amount of money for future use, assuming that the operators of the Cove meet their preconditions. It would not affect the Rivers project. The Rivers project would be subject to this provision. And as I mentioned before, there are certain conforming amendments which tie in state law definitions to the proposed charter amendment. The amendment, I think from a mechanical standpoint, does what you asked me to provide you with, which is a vote on urban renewal financing by bonded indebtedness and exempting out the previous commitments of the city. If I can answer any questions, I'd be glad to try.
Any questions from the commission? We're fairly familiar with the amendment, so that's probably why you're not hearing too much discussion on our part.
Point of clarification, are we going to take citizen comment and then discuss at the end of all three amendments, or are we going to do it one at a time?
Well, I think we'll take one amendment at a time.
Okay.
And then have the discussion from the citizens one amendment at a time.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a question. It would go through a charter approval. Should it go through a charter approval? And should it be approved, but in fact the development agreement with the Rivers was reached ahead of time, would that then be with the charter amendment?
If it were similar to the Cove agreement and were entered into before the charter amendment passed, yes, it would be exempted.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead for public comment on this particular charter issue that's before you. And I don't know if we have probably several. And they'll be presented to me here, and we'll be doing the same thing. We'll be calling you 10 at a time. Now, what I would request, if you're hearing the same person ahead of you saying the same thing, I request you not come forward, because as I said, what I think we'll do is after the citizens' comments and after we take the vote on this particular issue and have our discussion, I think most of the people here are on because of the Rivers project, and I just will ask for a indication of hands of people who want and do not want the Rivers project, and deal with it that way. And with that, are we ready for citizens' comments?
Will the following people please come forward in these chairs at the front? April McGinnis, Ralph Groner, Nick Borowski, William Borowski, William Gifford, Amber Holvik, Tim Delano, Sam Gillespie.
Mr. Groner, I am going to hold you to 3 minutes. No, you're not the first person, though. You're not the first person. I believe that April McGinnis is. But I am going to hold you to 3 minutes. I'm letting you know ahead of time. Yeah. We won't start the clock until you're ready to start. Okay.
Good evening. My name is April May Kathleen Quinn McGinnis. I am a 12-year resident to Oregon City and unincorporated Oregon City. I came before you tonight as a special request because I come bearing young men, and it is midterm week at the high school. What I brought you is Oregon City's future. Every one of these boys needs a job. Every one of these boys is involved in sports, Boy Scouts, outside activities. 4 of these boys are already die-hard hunters, fishermen. Ask them, they'll tell you, I killed a deer, I killed an elk, I go salmon fishing. But the most important thing is every one of these boys needs financial aid to get to college. This is what the Rivers represents. This is 7 years of work that you're asking to recharter. I was there at the beginning. I served on some little committees. I was part of CPOCs. I know what this is. I don't think you've been here long enough to ask to recharter this as a city commissioner. That's the first part of this. The second part is, who is going to employ these boys? Who's going to do it? You can't work at McDonald's unless you are over 18. Fred Meyer's has gone to 18. Kroger's nationally requires you are 21 now. Not in the state of Oregon yet, but when you go to other Kroger's in other states. Taco Bell wants you to be 21 because they're open 22 hours a day. This is important. We know there's going to be change and growth. I live out on Redland Road. We are going to be the most dramatically affected by any installation put in there. 205 is our lifeline. We know it's going to happen, but let's pick something that's going to support Oregon City, that's going to support our children. We know it's not going to be $75,000 a year jobs, but it's something that we don't have now. The perception of Oregon City is very skewed. I started coming to Oregon in '92, and I landed at the Portland airport in the dark, and I would call my in-laws and say, I'm here. Oh, look, I just drove by the burning city, i.e., that was Oregon City. From the expressway, there was steam and fire from the dump. I did not know what Oregon City was till 2002 when I moved here. I knew what West Lynn was. I knew what Lake Oswego was. I knew what Milwaukee was. I knew what Portland was. If somebody had asked me where Oregon City was, I was in a Sherry's one time and there were women dressed in period costumes. That must be Oregon City. You've grown so much as a community. I've seen it happen firsthand. Now you got to stick to your plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming.
2 of those kids are my students. Thank you, you guys, for coming.
Thanks
You
for
should be
being
at
here.
conferences tonight.
The next 2 speakers, could you come forward? They are?
Ralph Groner and Nick Vorosky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Your Honor, honorable commission members. For the record, I'm Ralph Groner from Oregon City. I will take my 3 minutes. I wasn't aware, and I apologize to you before. I can only say those who don't understand history will find themselves repeating it, so that's my thesis. I chaired in Oregon the No on Measure 5 campaign as a county commissioner. Don McIntyre, I debated. The fact of the matter is he said this would have no harm on the citizens of Oregon, and I listened. And what I found out was, in fact, with Bill Sizemore in 1997, once again, I led the fight against Measure 50. I have a history involved in tax matters, and by the way, I speak for myself, not for my union, and by the way, I am not part of the Chamber of Commerce. I am simply, in this case, a citizen expressing my point of view, and I want to make sure I thank the employees who set this up. They are my members, but they have not expressed a view. Mine is personal. I would like to say that now what we've done, because the citizens of Oregon passed the measures unknowingly what the future would bring, unknowingly, that now this last session with $14 billion, $4 billion of that was what the deficit was coming in for the biennium, was the increased cost to K-12. Not the original 30% we used to pay with tax dollars. It's now up to 70% with income tax. Now, it's highly volatile. We've now doubled, according to the testimony today in Salem, our income tax. We're the most dependent state in America on the income tax, and we're going up every year. And Measure 5 and 50 have reduced us to the point it is not, contrary to what the public thinks, just a recession causing schools to close. You will see, according to legislative revenue, continued closures unless we as citizenry begin to understand that those measures have wrought havoc on the income tax, which was supposed to pick up, rob Peter the income tax to pay Paul the property tax, but we never gave Peter the income. I would say that urban renewal, referral to the voters as an economic development tool, is the same repetition of a history that Measure 5 and 50 is. We can look at the town center, and I'll close with this. I chaired the town center creation of the Urban Renewal Committee. Quite frankly, it looked like this property. Today, we have thousands of jobs in hospitals, colleges, and businesses, and over $1 billion in property tax, and millions coming in to the income tax that pays for our schools, seniors, public safety, and higher ed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I cry foul having to follow a speaker like that. My name is Nick Vorosky. I live in Portland, and I have put together an economic summary sheet that I have many copies of for people and whoever would want one. And I'm going to just read from this until my time runs out, or you cut me off, or I finish, whichever comes first. The big picture of the Rivers Regional Center is that it generates the largest new employment base of any single project in Oregon except Intel's recent fabrication plant announcement in Hillsboro. It deals with the methane gas and landfill contamination issues of the site. It is a major tourism draw to the Oregon Trail Center and a historic downtown Oregon City. It contributes to the stabilization of local housing and employment markets. It's ready to happen virtually now. It's virtually shovel-ready. This is the bird in the hand. It brings new companies to Oregon that are not currently here and who will locate elsewhere, if not in Oregon City, such as other CenterCal developments where Crate and Barrel and IKEA did. It prevents the leakage of Cabela's tourist shoppers to another city. It's the highest and best use of land with high traffic volume interstate freeway location. Job creation, temporary construction jobs, 305 to be created. Permanent jobs, over 1,500. Indirect spin-off jobs, nearly 500. Permanent family wage jobs expected to be created at the center, 350 to 400. And I want to, it's not on this sheet, but I want to acknowledge the previous speakers who talked about the entry-level jobs that would be created here. That is a big, big factor. I began my employment as an entry-level employee working for my father, who paid me 50 cents an hour, which was legal way back then. Annual payroll expected at the center, $50 to $100 million by retailers, depending on sales levels. Spin-off construction of the Jug Handle project, $22 million. CenterCal is a best practices company recognized by the California State Teachers Retirement System for what they pay their construction workers. Advancement of tourism, CenterCal Properties advertising 650,000, draw radius 150 miles, result is 3 to 4 million people expected annually to be delivered right at the foot of the end of Oregon Trail and downtown Oregon City. Miscellaneous items on the second page, Oregon manufacturers and vendors supported by Cabela's alone, they report 244 vendors on their list, with 56 having Portland Metro addresses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we going to be calling for about 10 people, and the first 2 will come directly to the table?
Yes.
Can we do that? Okay. So,
Well, we're still with William Gifford and Amber Hovick. If they could both come forward, please.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, my name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. I talk to a lot of people. And almost without exception, people are surprised that this hasn't happened already. And frankly, the most common question that people ask me is, what are the objections? Why hasn't this happened? And I'm sometimes a little stumped, but I try to fall back on some objections that I have heard, such as the concern for the environment. And yet I think that concern can be addressed, and certainly will be addressed, because nobody's going to invest $200 million into a project where there's a danger of that coming up and biting them in the back. I've heard a concern about the retail paradigm is dead. That is to say that we can't just build stores that sell things. And I would certainly say that there's evidence against that insofar as other establishments that have been built, even locally, that have been very successful. But I heard an argument last night that kind of caught me off guard. Somebody said, I am opposed to anything that uses urban renewal. Anything that uses urban renewal. And so I was curious. I'm a curious guy. And I asked, why is that? And he said, because all urban renewal is government picking the winners. Unfortunately, I wasn't quick enough but I've been thinking about it to answer him. That first of all, the government is us. We're the government. If we don't like our government, vote somebody else in. Get up and vote for yourself. We are the government. And so far as picking winners, well, I would hope that my government picks winners. And if it's not my government picking winners, I'm not quite sure who I do want picking winners. Do I want the market to pick winners? Well, I would contend that if we let the market pick the winners, they're going to want to want investment as well. They're going to want public investment as well, no matter what goes into that site down there. Somebody's going to need to come up. I mean, the city is going to have to come up and help whoever develops that property. This is also not a typical urban renewal project. You're aware of proposed DDA regarding the potential upfront investment by the developer and the delayed payback. It's an absolute win-win situation for all of Oregon City, and I certainly hope that you stop this silliness about the proposed charter amendment. Thank you.
Again, I know it's hard to do, but yeah, hold your hands together and don't pull them apart.
Mayor Neely, City Commissioners, once again, I'm Amber Holbeck. I represent the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce and live just outside of city limits. I have no doubt that you've already received the Oregon City Chamber's letter stating our support for what's known as the Rivers Project. I'm not going to read it in its entirety tonight, but I do want to share some portions. both for you and for the community. In that the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce holds a responsibility to represent local business with government, and that the Chamber is dedicated to building a stronger local economy, our Chamber Board acknowledges its support of the project commonly known as the Rivers. Our City Commission and Urban Renewal Commission should look at the big picture for Oregon City's economy and recognize that this project lays effective groundwork for Oregon City's role as a regional center. As the primary organization representing business in Oregon City, we have sought the input of the business community. We urge you to listen to the citizen and business taxpayers who have said that we want this development. I think this room is testimony to that. Tonight and in the days to come, you need to understand that your decision about a charter amendment regarding urban renewal funding will directly and immediately affect the Rivers development. Ladies and gentlemen, the Rivers is about jobs, and so is your decision. You've heard many, and I think you'll hear more about the impact of the jobs from this development. The Rivers is about investment, and so is your decision. Oregon City has been waiting for a boost since being a host to several landfills, a transfer station, a sewage treatment facility. That trifecta, located at our gateway, doesn't make it a popular option for many developers. Yet, despite these negative attributes, Oregon City has found an ally in Center Cal Properties and Fred Bruning. Yes, this is a business transaction for a commercial developer, but this project is valuable enough for him to invest millions of dollars already, just to make sure that it's possible. Chambers of Commerce closely associated with other Center Cal property developments in the region state that the shopping centers and the developer himself have been and continue to be good community partners. I did my research. I checked with other chambers, and they say that this is a good person to work with. Investment in large-scale projects such as the Rivers resembles the success of our now closed Hilltop Urban Renewal District. Oregon City's estimated return on investment for the Rivers is staggering. And it's time for the Rivers and your decision. On the heels of our Great Recession, our community needs this catalyst now. The Rivers will do great things for Oregon City, and so can you. Your Oregon City Chamber supports this, requests your support to drive our economy forward in a positive direction, leading to more jobs, greater resources. As a public servant, you must recognize 1,800 new jobs for Oregon City as your priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will the following people please come forward to the waiting area? Tim Delano, Sam Gillespie, Sandra Gilman, Bob Stein, Jackie McIntyre, Jim Bean, Tacey Philbrook, Gretchen Nation, Brian Carrier, Derek Beneville, Tim Powell. First up is Tim Delano and Sam Gillespie.
Go. Hey, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So thanks for having me. I'm a resident of Oregon City. Been here for quite a while now. It's kind of a nice place. Didn't mean to wind up here, but I have. Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. Well, let's start with, I'm not really interested in shopping. It doesn't wind my crank. And I generally probably don't like developments and lots of traffic and all that kind of stuff that I think this proposed project brings, but I think that it's probably better for the community to have something positive and good than to just follow my sort of grouchy opinion about the way things ought to be. And I work with a lot of teenagers, and I know this commissioner does too, and I think about that future. Anyway, some other people have said things way more eloquently than I did tonight, so I'd like to echo lots of folks. I think process here is important, and to have an open process that doesn't feel like we're just getting something pushed at us. That's probably really important, you know. And I think jobs are good, and what's going to happen is probably going to happen. It's up to us to make the best advantage and add value for our community out of it and make it so it doesn't hurt us. So I think that's enough.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, my name is Sam Gillespie, and I'm a resident of Clackamas County, Clackamas, Oregon. Actually, it's in the Clackamas unincorporated area. I'm here with two hats tonight. I'm on the North Clackamas School Board. I'm the senior board member. I've been on that board for 16 years, and I'm here as the UFCW Local 555 Grievance Director. I want to emphasize that I am one board member expressing his opinion about this job. We have not taken a formal position on this project. We'll probably do so in the near future. This is about jobs, jobs, and jobs. Clackamas County, you heard the Employment Division tell you 9.8% unemployment, 500 to 1,000 construction jobs almost immediately. Those are family wage, prevailing wage jobs, and 1,500 to 2,000 permanent jobs after that. Now, this is a unique opportunity for you to combine public and private money into a project and do something very good for everybody. These jobs, based on the legislation passed, a bill in, I believe, the 2007 legislature, will be prevailing wage jobs, the ones on the construction. The construction crafts have a combined rate of 35% unemployed. Many of those people are citizens of your county and your city. That's almost 4 times the city unemployment rate of 9.8%. As I stated, I've been on the North Clackamas School Board for 16 years. We've had 1 year in 16 years where we had enough money to fund schools. 1 year in 16, and we're in the worst shape we've ever been. And we're not the only ones. You're Oregon City School District all across the state. We have passed 3 major bonds in North Clackamas to build more schools and to improve our existing schools, and the last one was a record of $229.6 million. The city of Portland, I said 10 years ago they needed $1 billion to fix their schools, and they say that that figure's been confirmed now. They're going for half of that, $549 million. That's what happens when you wait, when you don't improve your existing buildings. It costs you more. The Fram oil filler guy says, pay me now or pay me later. The last 2 years, we have cut staff and programs, and we are beyond cutting to the bone. We have cut $15 to $20 million is what we're looking at next year. The governor has proposed $5.6 billion for the 2011-2000 biennium. That level will take us to the 2008 level. We need more tax revenue. Lastly, I'm the grievance director for UFCW Local 555. I understand this project is not supported by you people of the Council of City Oregon, that the property will be sold to Walmart. Walmart is the largest employer in the world. They have been fined in 29 states for a violation of states' labor laws, 26 states where they offer health care. Employees of Walmart are the biggest recipients of those plans. Walmart's theme should be low wages always, little or no benefits always, little or no pension always. In conclusion, I would ask you to support this project and keep Walmart out of Oregon City. Thank you very much.
Next, please.
Sandra Gilman and Bob Stein.
Hello, my name is Sandra Gilman, and thank you for this opportunity. My story is a little different than the others I've heard. When I read in the paper about the Rivers Project, 2 wonderful things happened. I want to open a marvelous hat store in downtown Oregon City, and I thought if this program happens and this mall opens, I'm going to get people from that mall into my hat store. And so I thought this is a great opportunity for the little business people. We have a beautiful little city, but it's not blooming. And there's so many things that can happen in downtown Oregon City. And if we get that mall open, the people will come and see our beautiful little city. The other great thing that happened was my husband retired in 2001, and he said, if Cabela's comes to Oregon City, I might go back to work.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Bob Stein. I've got Stein Oil Company in Oregon City and on the other end, close to Home Depot.
We've been in the area for almost 70 years, my father and myself, and now my daughter. I go back to going to school at West Lynn, going to college at Lewis and Clark, going to service, coming back to Oregon City in '55, and being very, very active in those years in the Junior Chamber of Commerce. That was much more active than the Chamber of Commerce. We got things done. But one of the things that we always tried to do was to improve downtown. And there was great effort by that, to that extent, and we were never able to make the grade. And you go to meetings like this, and you know different property owners, and the heads would go up and down, but nothing was ever done. And I try to realize what happened to that. Why wouldn't that move? In those years, there were people of senior age, my age, that wanted to collect the rents. They didn't want to improve the stores. They didn't want to make a Leavenworth out of Oregon City. And that follows through today to some extent. So when you have an opportunity to improve your city, as this will do, and when the ship is at the dock, with the funding available and the people with know-how in knowing how to put it together, don't let the ship sail without you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie McIntyre and Jim Bean.
Hi, my name's Jackie McIntyre, and I'm a citizen of Oregon City. I have to say, sitting here, I've read so many negative comments in our local newspaper regarding the rivers, and sitting here tonight listening to the citizens of Oregon City who are for this project, I'm really proud now to be a citizen here. I really came with a question, and I don't know if you can address it. Perhaps when you start talking about the urban renewal funding, you can just discuss it. I had read in the paper that you had picked 2 new commissioners for the Urban Renewal Commission, and I understand they are already biased against the Rivers project.
I don't know if that's true.
Pardon me?
I don't know if that's true.
Oh, I guess, well, you know, I read it in the newspaper, and maybe you can't always believe everything you read in the newspaper. That really was my question as to, you know, how can you pick people who you know are already biased against the project? That was all I had to say. Thank you. And I also am opposed to any kind of vote for the urban renewal project.
My name is Jim Bean. I live in Oregon City. We moved here 44 years, 11 children, 50 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren ago. And this is the first time I think I've been here when I'm not representing anybody except all of that clan. I won't repeat all of the things that other people have said that I've agreed with this evening. I will make one observation that I think hasn't been mentioned and that is important to me as I consider this matter. And that is, Mr. Sullivan explained to us that if the charter amendment went through, and my objection is having to have votes on whether or not bonds are going to be approved, that if it went through, that it wouldn't apply to those things that have already been approved, and that's, no, it's not retroactive in that way. And I heard the mayor's question about that. What would that mean to the rivers? And Mr. Sullivan's accurate response that if the rivers project were approved and in place before this happened, then it wouldn't impact that either. I'd make that a big if, but if that were true, that's still true. I still would tell you that 40 years of practice in law and trying to help people who are making business decisions about whether or not to get into projects that create jobs and create this kind of development will be impacted, tells me that it will impact future decisions on whether people will do things if they know they got to have a vote on the bond approval before they can do it. And I would respectfully suggest that this developer here, I doubt he would have spent all of the money that he spent and gone this far in this project, trying to work with you, if he knew there was that big unknown out there that there's no control over, there's no reasonable way to identify what's going to happen. Bad weather can make a huge difference in the voter turnout. A whole lot of other things can. As one person mentioned here today, we've elected you to make decisions. We hope that's what you'll do and decide the things the best you can. We expect you're all honest and we'll try to do what is you think is right. And that's the way it ought to be, and not build another encumbrance into the process that's this way. So it's a bad idea to do the charter amendment.
Thank you.
Thank both of you.
Thank you.
Tacey Philbrook and Gretchen Nation.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Tacey Philbrook. I live in Oregon City. I also own the local collection agency, downtown Oregon City. I want to tell you a large part of my database is Clackamas County residents. A vast number of them are unemployed. A project such as big as the Rivers is an opportunity to put a lot of those people back to work. I think you're going to hear it echoed time and over in this meeting this evening. You're either for jobs or you're not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Carrier, Derek Benneville.
Go ahead.
Derek Benville, Oregon City. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I would like to repeat my statement made in the Urban Renewal meeting on Monday, so I have it on the record for this meeting. I've made a few adjustments based on comments made during Monday's meeting. Being a previous city commissioner and years involved with the CIC and community involvement, I understand the important need for urban renewal districts to improve the tax bases in sections of the city that are blight and require financial support from the city to kickstart the improvements of the areas identified in the urban renewal districts in the effort to increase tax base. The River Project is just the hot topic of the day, but there will be similar projects that will be proposed over the years that could have the same impact to the future of Oregon City. As an elected official by the citizens of Oregon City, we count on the mayor and commissioners to make the decisions that will be best for our community. This includes the use and tool of urban renewal. Understanding the urban renewal process is complex and takes a significant amount of time to truly understand it. If we change the charter of this city, requiring everything an urban renewal proposes to improve this city to the vote of the people, consuming and may be impacted by those that lack the information necessary to make the proper decisions for the future of Oregon City. Just look at the Bill Sizemore initiatives that were passed by the voters that truly didn't understand what impacts it would have to all the cities in Oregon. Many that have crippled our cities, including Oregon City, to the point that urban renewal is one of the only tools that the city and elected officials can use for the overall improvement of this community. The staff report for the Urban Renewal Commission supports these concerns. I quote, "Due to the complexity of urban renewal projects and agreements, a significant amount of time and resources will be needed to educate the people. In addition, the uncertainty of the outcome of an election may deter potential developers or projects from locating in Oregon City, putting the city at a disadvantage when compared to other cities or counties in Oregon." I'm not saying that all of the projects that we have done in Oregon City have been successful, but many have greatly revitalized our community and have increased our tax bases. The Rivers and Cove projects are two that will do just that, increase the tax base, and even more importantly, provide thousands of jobs for the community. I'm an advocate of keeping the urban renewal process as is, counting on our elected officials to make the most informative decisions and approval of the projects that would have the most positive impact to our city. And more importantly, to have the determination to close an urban renewal district after the property within the district has achieved the tax base goals set forth by the elected officials with the intentions of creating
future urban renewal districts and other areas of Oregon City that are considered blight. I urge you to please take the city manager's comments that he made at the urban renewal meeting to heart. It appears that the strong feelings have already been established by many of you, based on projects chosen by others in the past. Now is your opportunity to use this very important tool that we have for the best use of the community. Take advantage of the tool we have. Don't rush into changing the charter of our city based on emotions. It's our Constitution that has served this community for 167 years with only 9 changes. Any changes should be made with utmost care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Powell and Cindy Toll, and would the following people please come forward? Jackie Hammond Williams, Brian Shaw, Larry Morton, Joe Durbin, Linda Van Haverbeek, Les Diasis, Brenda Tank, Aaron Olson.
Mayor Neely and Commissioners, my name is Tim Powell, and I live in Oregon City. Up until about a week ago, I was the conflicting traffic movements, improves the aesthetic character of these commercial areas, and encourages trips by transit, bicycling, and walking. And then there's also 9.5, which talks about retail and where we should be putting our retail. This all fits with this program. Now, Oregon City is obligated to comply with its own land use goals. The public is not always aware, nor are they qualified to judge whether a development meets these goals. This is why we elect city commissioners, have planning commissioners, urban renewal agencies, so that they, not the public, can make these determinations. They are ultimately responsible to make sure these decisions comply with the comprehensive plan. This is the strongest argument for not having a public vote by the citizens on urban renewal expenditures. It is inappropriate and irresponsible. Thing we do in the city, I suggest we disband the city commission, the planning commission, urban renewal, and let the citizens vote on everything.
My name is Cindy Toll. I live in Oregon City. I decided to do a little research on urban renewal since I wasn't real clear about it. But what I found out was that it's worked well as an economic booster all over the world for many years. The creation of New York Central Park is a fine example of an urban renewal project. Oregon City is fortunate to be able to use urban renewal to revitalize its blighted areas. We voted to have an urban renewal commission to do this. There are approximately 10 Oregon City citizens on the existing Urban Renewal Commission. They include two of our city commissioners. These 10 citizens are entrusted with the task of making decisions on where and how to spend urban renewal capital to figure out where it will do the most good. All Oregon City citizens are given the opportunity to sit in on these discussions, raise issues, get information on financing and implementation, and come to meetings like this. The more citizens do this, the more these 10 people will know how the public feels about each and every project. Does this mean now that these same citizens have to vote on these projects as well? I think not. That is what citizens voted the commission to do. Vote as an informed representative of the public. And if you're not informed, have more of these meetings. To pass this unfair duty onto citizens of Oregon City and require them to make an uninformed decision on the complicated details of each urban renewal project will not only cost an additional $20,000 each time a special election is called, it will slow down and may even cancel projects because of time delays, consequently creating hesitancy on potential developers who may want to bid on future urban renewal projects. This city could quickly earn a reputation for sending out requests for proposals on a non-starting urban renewal project and may be hard-pressed to receive developmental bids for projects in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie Hammond-Williams and Brian Shaw.
Yes, come forward. You'll get to speak twice. Go ahead. I think you were first.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is a historic night. You're going to go down in history. So you've got to figure out how you want your friends, neighbors, families, kids, and grandkids, how do you want them to read about you in the Oregon City history book? You know, are you a commissioner that holds the interests of the small minority of people that elected you over the 25,000 other citizens in the city? Or are you a commissioner that held an opinion coming into this issue, listened to the citizens, reviewed the documents, and came to a better solution? Commissioner Smith, I got to applaud you because the January 19th City Commission meeting, we all listened to all the public hearing stuff. And at the end of that public hearing, you were the one that said, you know, I've heard some interesting things here tonight. I'm going to have to revisit this a little bit. This is the kind of leadership I'm looking for. Someone who is able to put his or hers personal agenda aside and work in the best interest of the citizens. Tonight you're considering some historic stuff here, this changing a charter, the Constitution of Oregon City. Now, but you're considering this without proper process for changing a charter. This should include members of the community on a charter committee of some kind. Many of you ran on citizen involvement during your election. Now you have to walk the walk. You know, it seems ironic that this referendum for changing urban renewal bonding comes at the same time that the Rivers project was getting speed. And I know some commissioners were saying that there's no connection there between the Rivers and this referendum. It just seemed kind of ironic that this referendum had to surface again At the same time, Rivers was gaining momentum. But this is what happens when the opposition runs out of ammunition. We have documents that show from CH2M Hill and DEQ that actually putting this shopping center on that site is going to help the containment of the methane and other issues going on down there, because this is one big project going to cover the site. It's not going to be a piecemeal development.
Mr. Shaw, you're out of time.
Oh.
I let you go a bit.
Okay.
You get some of this quickly.
Okay, one last thing. This is, it took 20 years to pass a school bond in Oregon City. 70% of your tax base is income tax, and that's jobs.
Thank you.
You can make both of your presentations separately and restart the time. You're speaking for,
Right now, I'll be speaking for Jackie Hammond Williams and her husband, Tim.
okay, and we'll have you just sit there and then give your own presentation afterwards, just to avoid shifting around.
All right, thank you.
Dear Mayor and City Commissioners, we would like to express our strong opposition to funds being used for the purpose of facilitating the proposed Rivers Shopping Mall. We are calling for this action to be put to the vote of the residents of the city to decide whether this amount of the city money should be used for this private developer's project or any other future project of this scope and size. Any gains in jobs this mall provides will be offset by the jobs lost due to local small business closings. The business growth similar malls had encouraged in the past was back in the days of plenty of discretionary spending, and times have changed. What we need are family wage jobs rather than minimum wage jobs with no benefits. The era of cheap, plentiful oil is ending, and with it the age of shopping as recreation. These kinds of lifestyle shopping malls have provided in the past. This is a project of the past century. We as a community need to realize this and work to attract businesses that will keep our dollars circulating locally, and work to create and preserve our own identity instead of becoming another Anytown USA with more redundant big box retail siphoning our money out of the state. So,
Now it's your time.
It's starting out, okay.
Yeah.
I'm Janine Offit. I'm an Oregon City resident. And I do want to have a say in where our urban renewal dollars go. In fact, ever since I was a young child, I wish I could have more say on the impact of the human impact on our environment. We are faced locally and globally with serious problems that need to be addressed. We cannot shop our way out of these problems. In fact, rampant and decadent materialism is a large part of our problem. The Americans consume energy and resources rapaciously, leaving a damaging footprint on the planet. We've been sold the idea that constant growth is a sign of a robust economy. We've been groomed to think that more is better. The idea is woven into every fiber of American life. So tell me, if our nation's materialist success is such a wonderful thing, why are so many Americans downing antidepressants at a rate that's unfathomable in the rest of the world? Constant growth is unsustainable. It is unnatural. When there is constant growth in natural systems, collapse is not far behind. As clever as we humans are, we cannot escape the laws of nature. It is time to return to a maintenance economy, one that meets the basic needs of all people and all life on the planet. Here in Oregon City and across the nation, we already have plenty of existing buildings and infrastructure that needs tending to. Urban renewal is, by the definition I found in Webster's, an expenditure that betters existing fixed assets. Locally, we have unfilled retail spaces. Let's improve what we already have. That's what sustainability is all about, using what you have right at hand. CenterCal talks about integrating sustainable features into the project, but that's just greenwashing. A project twice the size of Bridgeport Village would require massive inputs of energy and resources. It's time to reject the notion of shopping as recreation. Most of the goods sold at American shopping centers come from China and various third world countries where people slave away in miserable conditions to produce our gadgets, toys, and trinkets. China has created vast factory cities that are fenced in under armed guard. There's been a recent spat of suicides in the plants that put together our iPhones. Workers are so despondent they leap out of upper-story windows to their death. A destination shopping center is no solution to our economic problems. Here and now, we need to reduce our carbon footprint on the world. If not now, then when? Please use our urban renewal dollars to fix and maintain the built environment that already exists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Morton and Joe Durbin.
My name is Larry Morton. I've had a small business in downtown Oregon City for about 33 years now. Honestly, when I first read about the Rivers development coming into town, I was almost in shock. This town hasn't been very good on business environment, has a pretty crappy reputation for it. So it's honestly quite shocking somebody would actually come to this town and invest a lot of money to try to do something like this. So the best I can say is we've got a pretty big white horse here, and if we chase it off, I'd say it's probably going to be another 100 years before we find somebody foolish enough to want to waste money to come to this town. And another thing that was talked about was we should maybe emphasize on working on fixing up downtown Oregon City. Well, I almost live down there. I work there so much. But what would do the best for downtown Oregon City is to let this development come in. It'll do more than anything else you can do for us. If they come to town, they're going to break down, and I'm going to get fixer cars. So.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
My name is Joe Durbin. I'm a resident of Oregon City, and I'm a small business owner. I'm going to try to come at this from a layman standpoint. I'm just a college graduate and a small business owner. I don't think too many people in the room debate whether or not urban renewal funds should be used on this property. I mean, let's face it, it's rotting garbage. So we got to figure out what to do with it. But the big question is what are we going to do with it? Well, are we going to build a great shopping center that's going to attract thousands of jobs and provide lots of wages and a tax base, or are we going to put a gas plasmification plant on there and burn garbage? Well, to me, the answer is real simple. It's an easy solution that almost everybody in this room supports. And when I think about that, what it could do for our community, I could sum that up with a personal experience. 5.5 years ago, we moved to Oregon City, and my brother, who lives in Boise, Idaho, asked me, "Why are you doing that?" And we were coming from Portland. I said, there must be a place I can go where it's okay to drive a pickup truck. It's okay to go fishing. It's okay to have a car and not drive a Prius. It's okay to own some land. And Oregon City was all those things, and we love living here. Now I'm starting to second-guess myself because we're starting to get the government that we elected. When you think about those things, Oregon City is changing a lot, and this development could help bring all those things back to where it could be and be the place that we can hunt, we can fish, and it's not all those different things. Yesterday, we received an email from Dr. Rada, the Oregon City School District, a dire email talking about the state of the school district, funding, and so on. And it was pretty upsetting to have that email come out in light of all the recent budget cuts that have happened in the schools, and our kids are affected by that. And probably many of your families are as well. One of the ways that we can solve that problem is to not vilify business. How dare you want to make a profit? Capitalism is bad. The way that we solve these problems is inviting business, encouraging people to make a profit, to employ people. And when people come and work and earn money, they create a tax base and they pay tax. And they bring their families to live here, and we get more funding. And there's a lot of school teachers and folks in our community that are going to be impacted by that, and we can help them by doing the right thing and make sure that we have jobs and wages coming here. And that's a big deal. The unions would like to see that. So I'm all for this project. I would say, just from a standpoint of being blunt, get this thing built. No hesitation. Get it done. There's no question about it. If it doesn't get done, we'll know that politics rule more than what these folks in this room want. And it's pretty clear what the people in this room want. And I'll just close in saying, you may have gotten elected, and that's fine, but at the same time, people in this room have decided on this issue, and they want this mall built. Get Cabela's in here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Van Haverbeek and Les Diazas.
Good evening. I'm Linda Van Haverbeek. I'm a resident of Oregon City, and I am for the rivers, and I am against the Urban Renewal Charter Amendment. This will directly affect myself and my husband, Stephen, in many ways, because we will be driving through the traffic that will come here, and we are more than willing to do that for the growth. Especially, we're looking for jobs for our neighbors. We live very close to Clackamas Heights and Oregon City View Manor, and we'd like to see these people be able to have opportunities in their life and be able to have jobs. And because of those jobs that we hope they get and the increase in the economy eventually in Oregon, we're hoping that that growth will lead to increased bus service on Holcomb Road. And if that's true, because of the demand for the jobs for the people going down the hill. And so we'd like to see that very much. We'd like to see places, additional places, more than we have already, to shop and to go to movies and go to restaurants. And these will be very close to home for us. It would be even closer than in the Hilltop area. We've had a lot of connections in the city. Right now I'm serving as the president of the Oregon City Friends of the Library. I'm on the Oregon City Library Board, and I think this would be very advantageous to the growth of the library in the future. And so I'd like you to consider this and to move it along. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Les Diazas. I represent the Diazas family and the employees of Benchmade Knives up in Oregon City and Red Soils Court. Nice to meet you, Mayor. Commissioners, we were the first commercial project in the Red Soils urban renewal opportunity. It went fast. There wasn't a lot of red tape. We needed a place to house our corporate headquarters and to build a future for everybody that we touched. Watching what's going on here, I would request that you show the courage that the people that I dealt with coming up to allow us to pursue our dream and our responsibilities in Oregon City. Cabela's, that particular shopping project is going to be strong. We're one of the 44 or 56 vendors in the metro area that sell to Cabela's. I have to tell you, they are a world-class operation. It's something we strive to be in our industry. We feel we're a leader, and we're doing what we have to do to drive our business, have the courage to stay put, and to make it a better place. Taxes, the revenues, being a traded sector business, bringing those dollars in from outside the area, percolate into our suppliers here. It's imperative that we do something in Oregon City. I feel many times that we're stepping up, but to get that support is frustrating when it doesn't happen quickly. We think that there's just great opportunities here for the citizens, for the future employees. If these are entry-level jobs, we'd like to have a crack at these people when they get a little older and they know that they can come to work every day drug-free and ready to rock. As I said, we support education. We work with Clackamas Community College, the new Industrial Arts Charter School. It's about the future of Oregon City. And again, we hope that you will do what you need to do to make this place a much better place for all of our residents, all of our people, our dreams, our courage, our promise, our hearts. I just can't begin to tell you. We're committed to this place, and everything that we do, we hope that our company and the interaction you have with our company shows that we do what we say we're going to do, and we think Cabela's is also a very similar organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing your business to Oregon City, too. We appreciate that.
Next is Brenda Tank and Aaron Olson. And then will the following please come forward? Christine Kozinski, Scott Parker, Jerry, is it Jennings, Larry Lovelady, Dan Fowler, Tim West, Deanna Marcial, and Denny Edelin.
My name is Brenda Tank. I currently live in Oregon City, where I have lived for 26 years. I also have a background in municipal finance in the state of Oregon, having worked for over 30 years in the financial administration of school districts, including Oregon City, Clackamas Community College, and state agencies. Last but not least, I served on the City of Oregon City Budget Committee for 8 years. I also have a basic understanding of how urban renewal works. I am truly disappointed and do not understand why we can't proceed with a project that will be nothing but benefit our community with an economic base, creating jobs and a destination for our surrounding neighbors to visit and spend money. I also have a very personal reason. Right now in Oregon City, if I want to buy a new dress or buy a special gift, I have two options: Fred Meyer and Goodwill. Those are both good options, and I have used them both. However, I do leave this city very often to go shopping. Should I choose to go to Bridgeport, I may also choose to stop for dinner at one of the restaurants in the area. After that, I may need a few groceries, so I'll probably whip into Tualatin and Fred Meyer. It's on the way. And then should I need gas for my car, I will probably whip in at the Chevron station in Willamette because it's right off of the freeway. If I had the Rivers, I would do my shopping, head up the hill, probably stopping at Weatherford's for dinner, great place to eat, and then at the Chevron station on Molalla for gas, and then to Fred Meyer for my groceries. My husband's money and credit cards and I would have never left the city limits of Oregon City. And I'm not the only Oregon City citizen that fits this scenario. There also seems to be confusion and misunderstanding about the workings of urban renewal. It's an open process. It has legal requirements and limitations according to Oregon revised statutes. The Department of Revenue serves as the watchdog to make sure that the taxes are levied properly. The urban renewal development and planning process is not done in secret. It's an open process with goals and objectives involving citizens along the way. Each year, there's an open budgeting process with public notice and hearings. Anyone can be part of that process in the spring of every year and know exactly what's going on in urban renewal. We don't need elections and political games to be involved. Mechanisms are in place. It's the responsibility of the Commission to see them used properly. I believe the intent and spirit of the urban renewal statutes is for government to work with the private sector for improvement in a community. Right now, that does not appear to be happening in Oregon City. I urge you to do what needs to be done and move forward with the Rivers Project. Our city needs it, and our citizens deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to just make a statement. When we get through this group, it'll be a 9 or after, and we'll take a stretching break. Okay?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Commissioners. My name is Aaron Olson, and thank you for being here tonight and listening to the folks here in Oregon City. We have a lot of diversity in this room. We have a lot of depth, and we have a lot of wisdom. So please listen to people very carefully. And I just want to say that I'm here as a citizen, an educator, small business owner, a resident of Oregon City, a U.S. Army veteran, and a retired Oregon State Police manager. I know government. I know how government works. And I just want to make it very clear and concise here that I am opposed to the charter amendment for voter referral of urban renewal bond issues that was introduced by Commissioner Nocita. And I respect you introducing that. You have the right, and this is America. We're a democracy. I do want to clearly state here that Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution reads, "The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a Republican form of government." I believe our system of government works in our city charter, and I want to quote Steve Mays from the Oregonian, who validates my belief that our city charter works. And Mr. Mays just happened to be at the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission meeting that we had this last Monday evening. I was there along with a number of other folks. And I like what he made in his story in the Oregonian from February the 1st. He said, Oregon City's Urban Renewal Commission declined to make a stand this week on a proposal that could endanger plans for a $200 million mall and other public-private development projects. The panel concluded Monday the proposal to require voter approval of urban development bonds was riddled with too many unknowns. The members voted 7-3 against making a recommendation to the City Commission. Requiring voter approval bonds could scuttle, I prefer to use the word derail, a nearly completed deal with the Center Cal Properties developer of the Rivers, a retail center that comes with the promise of a Cabela's sporting goods outlet and 1,500 permanent jobs. As I said earlier, I was at the Monday meeting, and I agree with the Urban Renewal Commission's vote and rationale. Let our current system of checks and balances work, and please do not manipulate our Urban Renewal Commission and economic development process. Our unemployment rate in Oregon is 10.6%. We need jobs now, and I urge you to vote no this evening to this unwise and flawed charter amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine,
I think we've got about 4 or 5 people yet in this group, and we'll go ahead through them.
Christine Kaczynski and Scott Parker.
Christine Kaczynski. I live in unincorporated Clackamas County, and I've lived here about 40 years. $130 million of urban renewal debt equals a payback of $260 million, at least. Shopping centers bring big problems. They bring crime, they bring drugs, theft, gangs, and much more problems that run rampant. Who will pay the tens of millions of dollars needed for 10 to 12 full-time policemen, for added fire coverage, for security, for liability from methane issues, for the cost of new minor and major arterial roadways? The taxpayers pay, while at the same time precious monies are diverted from our cash-strapped schools, our police, fire, and city services. These diverted dollars are not paid back for 30, 40, 50 years or more until the urban renewal district is closed. And I believe this district has been open already since 1978. Businesses in shopping centers are not local. Monies do not stay here. Sales monies do not stay in Oregon. They go out of state. They go out of country. These are not living wage jobs. It is true, they are entry level. Doesn't it make more sense to support our existing shopping center, adding a second story, possibly anchoring it with Target, the only out-of-state business, and then support our local businesses who have been here for years, supporting our community
and our city. Instead of Cabela's, I would rather support Fisherman's Marine, who is a local company, an Oregon-grown company, and they're trying to expand, and they need the business. Supporting Clackamas Community College to bring in more partnerships for higher education to this city. The support of the education in our city really needs to be brought up. Higher education brings success and brings family wage jobs to a city. These dollars are not free. In 2010, Urban Renewal took $636,832 from our schools and $68 million from our schools statewide. Our city services in Oregon City last year lost $426,165. This doesn't seem to be a win-win for our schools, nor for our taxpayers. I would ask that you inform your voters of not just the pros, but the cons. Let them vote. This is their money and their city. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go through the 2 or 3 people that are on the waiting out here, and then we'll go ahead and take a break.
My name is Scott Parker. I live in Scappoose, and my family owns Rossman's Landfill. I've submitted a letter from myself, along with a letter from CH2M Hill, and a fact sheet from CH2M. I think you've already seen it, but I've entered it into the public record. I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from my letter, and I'd like to do that. For the last 10 years, plans have centered around and been promoted by the city for the development of our property into a regional urban center. The city has been very involved with this project, and we've done this to satisfy Metro's goals for the development of urban centers and to incorporate and include the fact that our property sits at the end of the Oregon Trail. Those plans have included millions of dollars of improved and enhanced environmental controls and infrastructure upgrades, which can only be added and paid for by income-generating development. Maybe the key word in the beginning of this is our property. The property is not owned by the city. They've not paid the taxes on the property. They've not dealt with the ongoing maintenance and monitoring costs associated with operating the closed landfill. We have. 10 years ago, when negotiations were first instigated with the Mills Corporation and then refined when CenterCal came along, the Parker family always demanded and were positively assured by both those developers that the historical elements of the end of the Oregon Trail, the Interpretive Center, and the pioneer and Native American elements associated with this area and the historical significance of that landmark were going to be incorporated into the project in numerous and substantial ways. That was a prerequisite of our family's willingness to allow the development to go forward. The citizens of Oregon City and the state of Oregon have actively and historically promoted and utilized a tool already in place to aid in economic development and the enhancement of blighted or brownfield property, as well as the creation of jobs and the generation of tax dollars that we so desperately need to fund the schools, the police, the fire, and all of the public services we've come to rely on. There are major efforts underway locally that are trying to take that tool apart and put up roadblocks to future efforts by developers and private enterprise to make it work. That goes against the very spirit of the law, and the citizens of Oregon City should not be robbed of the opportunity, nor should they be subjected to the results of the disaster that'll create. The Rivers Project alone promises to bring $180 to $200 million worth of taxable value to the city. My time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Jennings, I'm sorry about that name there, and Larry Lovelady.
Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council, my voice is a little shot, so bear with me a little bit. I live in West Lynn. I've spent the last approximately 45 years living in Oregon City, Clackamas, and West Lynn. I go back to the days before the bypass was here, and I fought traffic coming down the hill, going up the hill to work, et cetera, et cetera. I have owned small businesses and constructed projects in the development stage and construction projects. And after listening to all the testimony tonight, I just go, wow, there's a lot of input of information coming to you folks from a lot of informed people that have gone, I think, through extra hoops to verify facts on unemployment, employment, taxes paid, payroll taxes paid to support the city and the schools, and the City of Oregon City with regard to fees, permits, jobs that the city has currently. The urban renewal thing being considered tonight, I can understand why all of a sudden it's becoming an issue, but a company the size of Center Cal bringing a project to the table, they spend a lot of money, a lot of time, I've heard numbers in the $8 million range to date, verifying the success of a project. They don't do it on a whim. They put a lot of time and effort and study into doing that. Changing the game on them in the middle of the stream, I don't think is fair to them nor the public, the citizens in or around Oregon City. The jobs it creates. I've lived here, watched the mills be the biggest employer in town. I've watched the mills go up, go down, be sold, closed, and then full boom and go on strike. Shopping centers don't normally go on strike. I look at the town center and I look at Bridgeport Village and see the jobs that have created over the years. This town, this community, this county can use those jobs. The Rivers is not only about jobs, but it's also a gigantic investment and beautification project, I think, for this area.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and
Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Denny Elan.
Thank you.
I'm a longtime resident here in Oregon City, and I just wanted to get my 2 cents in. But I've drove by that dump for 45 years, and that's what it is, a dump. And it's an eyesore, and I'm thinking, before I die, I sure would like to see something built on that thing. And we got a chance now to put in a first-class destination where people come from all over the state. Money will come into this town, and that's what we need. I've delivered a lot of food baskets and things for Christmas stuff to people. And most of them are good working people, are not working anymore. They don't want to take food baskets. And when we talk about low-paying jobs, they'll eat them up. They need a job. They need their dignity back. And so it's not low-paying jobs if you're not working. It's a good job. And one other thing, I'm proud of you commissioners, and Rocky Smith, I owe you an apology. I seen him out in the hall tonight, and I said, Rocky, however you're voting one way or another, and Rocky says, hold it right there. You don't know how I'm voting, and I'm glad you had the guts to put me down, Rocky. And on a little lighter moment, he did say, well, you don't know what's in my head. And like Dizzy Dean said, I looked there, but I didn't see a thing. But I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denny.
Larry Lovelady and Dan Fowler.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Larry Lovelady.
I am an Oregon City resident. I'm also a union rep for the operating engineers. My opinion is solely mine and not the 701. One of the things you guys heard is jobs, obviously. This is all that's been talked about tonight. We have a high out of work list, 500 to 600 people. That's high for us. These jobs, our contractors can't bid on stuff unless it's out there to bid on. And this is one of the projects they'd love to bid on. You've got a local company right here, Kaufman Excavation. That's right in their backyard. They'd love to have something like this. Also, my wife got us a dog last summer, and I got the duty of walking the dog around the neighborhood, and I couldn't believe how many vacant houses I've seen, because these people don't have jobs. I've heard, you know, the city of Portland is having that problem, but I didn't know it was right around the corner from me, and it is. The other question I have, do you think Safeway would be building here now if they had to wait for a public vote? That to me, you know, it's a bad idea. I'm in favor of creative thinking, but I don't think this is a good idea to put it before the public. That's what we elected you guys to do. I want to see you do it. The mayor came to my house, knocked on my door, and the two of the questions I asked him, what do you think of the rivers, and what do you think of the cove? He gave me the answer I wanted, and I voted for it. So I'm hoping you guys drop this. Just get rid of it. And let you guys do your job. That's all you got to do. Just do your job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dan Fowler, Oregon City. Thank you for the meeting location, and I really applaud the public for being here and speaking. It's a good process. I've heard it said by some that people elected you, and you made statements that you feel that you need to uphold because of the vote or the election, and statements even in voters' pamphlets. And I understand that. I liken it to a neighborhood committee chairman, though, that in the beginning advocates for his neighborhood. You need a stop sign? I'm all over it. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to get a stop sign. But if that person becomes a city commissioner, his gaze has to go up, and his gaze has to be broader. Because now, even though I may not have voted for you, once you're in office, you're my city commissioner. You represent me also. Not just those who helped you get there, and I applaud them for working for you and getting you in office. That's the way it works. But once in office, you represent us all. And I hope you do that. Specifically, business needs certainty. This charter amendment does not give it. We need jobs. The project will give it. Wilsonville recently spent $100 million with the state, got 170 jobs. This is $17.6 million that we get paid back, and we're getting over 1,500. Have you ever thought about why the reaction tonight and why not before tonight? I mean, what's the difference? I would bet that most people in this town thought there was no way this project would ever get turned down. No way. Once they realized, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. They might actually say no to this. I think a few people got fired up and said, we got to make our voice heard. So what do? If it was a good idea to change the charter, I'm all for process. You guys know that. Form a charter committee. Take time. Do it slow. But this isn't a good idea. Tonight, the best thing you could do with this and the other charter amendments is just put them to rest. Just stop them. Second, I would encourage you to work with the developer. Get it right. He's not a bad guy. This is not a bad project. It's a good project. Get it right. Get it done for jobs and get it done for Oregon City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that one more from this group, and then we'll take a stretch break.
Deanna Marcial.
Okay. Is Deanna here? She had to leave? Okay. Well, in that case, we'll go ahead and take our stretch break. Let's make it 10 minutes, but I don't know what you're going to do with the line in the restrooms, but you're going to work that one out. I mean, we're going to keep it. We've had several people leave. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take that hand vote now. It'll be easier for us to see the hands since some people have left. We're going to take that hand vote now. Will the people outside please come in? I don't know if she gets that. I think. Well, he was out in here a minute ago, I thought, but. There. I'm going to actually do a hand vote on two things because there are two things that are intertwined, but they're somewhat separate. And I guess I'll start with the rivers, the actual project of Senator Cal that involves the Cabela, and just have a hand vote of those who aren't. We're not going to do a count, but we'll just get a feeling. All those in favor of the project. All right. If you lower your hands, please. Okay. Those who are opposed to that project, please raise your hands. They're probably shy. Anyway, then in terms of the charter vote here that we're going to be taking in a moment, this is a vote to take the charter for additional projects that require bonding to a vote of the public. Those who are in favor of the charter vote, please raise your hand. Those opposed to the charter vote, please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, we're going to go on with any testimony people want to have. We want to make sure we've got a true vetting of opinions here. But if you feel the information is sufficient, we've already got a pretty good feeling how most people feel here. And then I'm going to ask our city recorder then to call the next group of people.
Okay, would these people come forward, please? Blaine Meyer, Graham Peterson, Mike Bradbury, Jim Edwards, Wagner, Terry Stewart, Damon Mabey, and G. Spirit Hawk, and Dan Holliday.
I think probably some of our speakers have left too, but they probably felt that their message had already been given. Blaine, I think you were first. Give it another try there. No, it's not.
But he drives.
Give it a try.
There you go. I'm Blaine Meyer, and glad to be here tonight.
Are you from Oregon City?
I live in unincorporated Oregon City, just south of Henrici on Highway 213. Lived here 21 years, and I'm a business owner on High Street, overlooking the promenade, and served on the Oregon City Chamber Transportation Advisory Committee, charter president of the Oregon City Lions Club. I just had an observation. One, I'm watching the news lately. I'm really glad that we live in this kind of a country, this kind of a city. It's not like Cairo, and so we have a lot to be proud of. It's just great to see everybody here participating, and thanks for having us. Wanted to read a quote from one of our commissioners, who I know, pretty sure is against the Rivers Project. But the quote is, "Oregon City is poised to be the new destination city. We will be known as pioneers of the new century, a community which embraces and enhances its geography and character." There's some code words in that quote that, that I think are along the environmental lines and some ideology there, and I understand that. But if we want this to be a destination city, and I believe that the Cabela we're trying to get this shopping center. I was like, wow, isn't that where the dump was, where Old Metro sent all their garbage? And so we have this image of being a bit backwards. But the Rivers Project is a draw. And one point I want to make is Abernathy Green, the Rossman landfill, that was the terminus point for 2/3 of the pioneers of the Oregon Trail. That was the jumping off point. And I envision that the Rivers Shopping Center being a jumping off point for many other things in Oregon City. I see the trolley going through there, taking people all over the city. The end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center maybe being revived with all of the new visitors and customers. So let's make that, continue that as a jumping off point. Also, just a comment, I wanted to just mention, we've talked a lot about unemployment, but I did a little research today. 22% of unemployment is among high school kids. 9% nationally, but 22 among high school kids. And that's serious. Oregon is number 4 in U6 unemployment. That's total unemployment. That's huge. And so we need to do something about that. So in closing, I just want to say that encourage you to check any kind of ideology. And to quote Larry the Cable Guy, get her done.
In terms of it being an economic development tool and being our strongest economic development tool as a city, and how that relates to every other city's ability to use this same tool to compete against the same jobs, the same investors, the same developers. And what we're talking about here is a charter amendment to renew our bonded, or to push our bonded indebtedness to a vote on every project. And what that does is create a huge amount of uncertainty for quality, business-minded individuals wishing to do these projects, invest in our city. And ultimately what that does is when you're looking at Westland, Gladstone, Clackamas, all these areas around us that don't have to deal with that restriction, we've got a tool, we've got a saw that we've just bashed against rocks, and we're trying to chop through the same piece of wood that every other city has, and they've got a chainsaw finely tuned built to do what it was meant to do, and we are simply at a complete disadvantage. I also want to talk about timing of this in relation to Cabela's, because I think the Rivers is a great project, and I think Cabela's adds another great opportunity, and that is tourism. And I think as Cabela's being an anchor tenant, we have an opportunity to take advantage of what that means and translate that into a greater tourism attraction and stimulate our tourism economy. So I want to just leave with this. I've always been a true believer in focusing on success, being proactive, doing what I can to make a project the best project it can be, if it's a good project to begin with. And what I want to do, working with you on urban renewal, is take this Rivers project and we find ways, if we want to invest in downtown, work with the developer, work with within the context of this project, and how do we work together as a team to be true leaders and make the situation better in every aspect, so that this is a true win-win. And that's all that I want, is a true win-win, and I look forward to working with you on urban renewal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Bradbury. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I'd like to give some comments on this measure before you, putting these TIF increment financing bonds out for a common vote. I'd like to comment on this proposed charter amendment before you today. I've listened to some of the concerns aired in previous public comments, which for the most part have been positive and supportive in bringing to Oregon City the opportunity to promote business and revitalize the area outlined in North Downtown URD District, which has been discussed for several years now, I believe. To be specific, the Rivers and the Cove had this opportunity to bring visitors to your city along with their entertainment and shopping dollars. Oregon City will do nothing but gain from the local jobs these URD projects will create. This referral before the council almost appears to be a reactionary process from a small constituent base that is upset over previous actions of the city and its planning development agencies. The whole urban renewal process has been working properly throughout the state and has created a very successful way of developing much needed improvement, not just in Oregon City, but throughout the state. I ask this council not to support this motion because of the stoppage to all future developments that this proposed amendment could result in. The city should also use the current outline URD process, which includes working sessions, public and neighborhood input, development agreements, keeping in mind Oregon City's future growth plan. Another reason why I'm concerned over this amendment to refer the URD bond to vote is the amount of time needed to educate the public so there is no confusion as to what they're voting on. In summary, I ask the City Council not to put this issue of urban renewal bonds to the May ballot for a vote, not because the peoples will be confused over the issue, but because you already have a mechanism in place called the Urban Renewal Commission and Planning Department, and you, the mayor, and respectful council, that when you're working properly, all these agencies, the City of Oregon City, the Planning Department, the URD, all your bodies, when you guys are watching what's going on and you're monitoring the process, there shouldn't be any type of problem that would arise where the public would be concerned as to whether or not you're doing your abilities and your jobs and you're spending their money appropriately. I thank you very much for allowing me the time to speak about this, and I hope to be shopping at Cabela's pretty soon in the near future. Pardon me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Edwards and Mike Wagner. Next would be Terry Stewart.
Hello, my name is Mike Wagner, and I live in the little community of Malino down the road. I'm chairman of the Hamlet of Malino, and I've been past chair of the Clackamas County Planning Commission. I'm here tonight totally speaking on my own behalf, but I do have about 30 years of experience in urban renewal and have done about 20 urban renewal plans and negotiated with about 30 or 40 developers. First off, I'd like to say that when I was on the commission a couple months ago at the meeting, there were over 600 people showed up concerning waste energy, and 600 were opposed, and one person was for it, and that was the applicant's representative. We filled the high school, the Oregon City High School, so I think when people learn what comes out the stack of a waste burner, I don't think this would be a good site for a waste burning facility. What I'd like to talk about tonight is TIF, and that's tax increment financing. And while it is possible to educate the whole voting populace of Oregon City regarding tax increment financing, it's very difficult. And I think as leaders of the community, if you understand TIF, it makes it easier to do urban renewal projects. This is a classic urban renewal project. There's no doubt that this is a blighted site. The property taxes that are being paid today are very low. The property taxes are going to be much higher when this project is developed. It's that difference in that property taxes, which won't happen unless the project happens, that are going to go to reimburse the developer for the pylons and the mitigation that has to be done on that site to make it developable. It's just important to understand that that is a very difficult concept to educate all of the voters on. In fact, I think that one of the reasons I came is that I'm a regional shopper, and the regional shoppers are going to be paying the tenants. The tenants are going to be paying rent to the owner, and the owner is going to be paying the taxes. And that tax increment difference is what is going to go to the Urban Renewal Agency that's going to backfill this project. Now, I don't know the specific terms of the project, but my understanding is that their tax increment is not going to be rebated until it's built and 80% rented. That's a very good cushion for the city and a good guarantee that the Urban Renewal Agency will be getting its tax increment. While there are some abuses in urban renewal, this is not one of them. This is a really straight up, decent, good project for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Terry Stewart. I am a resident of Oregon City. I have 6 rental properties, so I'm a landlord, and I'm also a realtor that has been working in this town since 1992. You know, as a landlord, when I am renting my properties, I rent mostly to singles and couples and young families. Their biggest concern about moving to Oregon City is the lack of public services, lack of employment opportunity, restaurants, shopping. And in the last few years with the real estate market decline, most of my customers are new buyers, new home buyers, first-time buyers, and empty nesters. They have the same concerns. The first-time buyers are looking for employment opportunities. They're worried about the schools. And then both of them are looking for public service, restaurants, and shopping. The city lacks all of that. It's hard to sell a town when they don't have a lot to offer. When I moved back to Oregon City in '92, most of my clients were builders and developers. All of my customers had one restriction when I would go out and look for property for them. The restriction was not Oregon City. None of them would build in Oregon City or develop in Oregon City. Their reasons were that it was too difficult, there were too many hoops, it was time consuming, there were too many delays, it was too risky. And so sometime in the 90s, the city made a lot of changes. They actually went out and tried to entice builders back into the city. We held open houses, we invited builders, and they started coming back into our town. My fear is that if you put the voting requirement on the urban renewal money, there is not an investor or developer that is going to take the risk of investing in the city. They're going to look at other cities because, again, we're going to be too risky, too time-consuming, too many hoops. And then I guess the last thing I want to say from listening to everybody tonight In the month of December and January, I had 17 calls from homeowners that needed to sell their homes, just talking to me about selling their homes. 15 of those homeowners were in trouble, heading towards foreclosure, already in foreclosure. And all but one of them were there because of job losses. So I think that any one of those homeowners would give their left arm to have one of those jobs, to have the possibility that they wouldn't lose their home. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Damon Mabey and G. Spirit Hawk.
Good morning, or afternoon, morning, late evening.
Somewhere.
Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Damon Mabey. I'm a resident of Oregon City. And I want to address a couple of things, one of which that Mr. Fowler touched on, which is the issue that was brought up at the last commission meeting about we made campaign promises. What are we supposed to do about those campaign promises? And had some time to kind of think on it because it was right at the end of my comments. And the answer to that is do your best. You, with the exception of Mayor Neely, you are all first-timers. No one, I think, expects a first-time politician who makes promises. When they get into office, they are now privy to information that they did not have prior to that time, and they amend their position. If the president, when he was running, said, "I will close Gitmo in 1 year." He didn't, because he became privy to information. If the President of the United States can amend his position after he gets information, the President of a city council can amend his position after he gets information. There was also a comment about my constituents. And the whole city is your constituents. I went back through 2 years of urban renewal and city council meetings, reviewing them. Thank you for Granicus. And May 15th, one of the things was, well, this isn't a new issue. May 15th, 2009 was when this was first brought up by Commissioner Nocita. Since then, I went through the records looking for who were the pros and who were the cons. I found one person who was against the urban renewal thing, no one who spoke for it who wasn't already on the commission, or the same half dozen curmudgeons who basically talked about anything that had anything to do with the previous mayor's administration being bad. So I don't think that there's truly a large constituency based on what you see tonight. It's 2 to 75 that really supports urban renewal amendments. Also, I want to talk briefly about amendments, what that means and what it means to the city. We've had 10 of them. We're looking at one in 2014 that's going to need major action that's causing problems for the city. We had another one that required everybody to vote on any size of annexation, whether it's 1 square foot or whether it's 100 acres, which just caused problems for the city. We had a project ready to go of several $1 million at Beaver Creek, and it failed because one person screamed taxes, another person screamed traffic, and everything fell apart. We would have had a fairly major research and employment center already in place, and it's not there. It's dead because scared voters voted no. And, Commissioner Nocita brought up the idea of possibly doing a plasma burning plant. I mean, one of possible ideas. But if that were to come to fruition, it would require a repeal of an amendment to our charter. So every time we do something to our charter, it looks good today, but you have to think about what it's going to mean in 20, 30, 50, 100 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Neely, Commissioners, I'd like to also acknowledge the manager, city attorney, and especially our police department here in Oregon City that has taken their time to come to this event. I tend to be at times a man of few words, so we heard a lot of repetition tonight. I'm going to say that my name is George Spirithawk. I am a resident here in Oregon City, and I have been an instructor at Clackamas Community College. I am a former police officer of over 18 years, including investigations and private sector. I'm a military veteran. So I've worn many hats before, and I've seen conflict, and I've seen things mired in discussion that took a very long period of time. I'm also a tribal citizen, not an Oregon tribe, but I am a minority here in the city. And I say to you, what was the slogan of this city when it was first formed? First city. Let's make this a first city again. Let's do that. In the tribal government, we have a way of relying upon our leaders and instilling certain qualities in those coming up to a leadership position. Leaders do just that. At times, they have to put their own personal opinions aside, and they have to represent the community. Because if they do not, they can be replaced. You know, in a tribal government, that happens all the time. So I charge you commissioners with listening to what's been said tonight. You're very good people. You didn't get this far not being good people. And Mayor Neely, all the best, sir. I can't wait to see this project come to pass. And as far as the health issues, I don't believe I've lost any hair working at the Oregon City Home Depot, so I don't think that we have a health issue down there. There are some fumes here and there, but I think those are mostly located as just airborne, so we shouldn't worry about that too much. And we have safeguards in place, from my understanding. Let's all keep an open mind and move forward. Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't make comments, but he acknowledged some of the staff that are here. I think every one of our executive management team is present. They don't get overtime, folks, and they're all here. Some of them are standing, so I want to thank them all for being here.
Dan Holliday and Larry Didway.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners and staff. I actually didn't plan to come to speak this evening, but I wanted to address earlier comments made regarding school funding and the loss of school funding and as it relates to urban renewal.
Could you introduce what you do, being that's the case?
Pardon?
Could you introduce what your work is?
Yeah. I happen to be the Assistant Superintendent for Oregon City School District. So the
just happen to be.
I happen to be. So the while I don't dispute the number that was quoted, I just wanted to tell the rest of the story on school funding, which is rather complicated, but there is an equalization formula, and so when there's an increase in revenue at the property tax level for a locality, the state school fund contribution that's coming directly from the state is altered accordingly. So while it's not a dollar for dollar, it makes that number shrink considerably. And if you compare the difference with the increase or presumed increase tax value due to increased property values and incomes, you would hope to see that eclipsed. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What else is new?
Well, once again, Dan Holliday. The other Dan. There's a couple of points that haven't been made tonight and that have been talked about in other meetings that I wanted to make sure that we talked about, and that is that a couple of the commissioners have discussed that during their campaigns they had these people that were just absolutely for this kind of charter amendment and that were against the rivers. And my question is, where are they? They aren't here. There was a mention earlier on when we asked to have this meeting moved to make sure that it would accommodate everyone, and folks from that side said they were going to bring 150 people to this meeting, and we've seen one or maybe two.
Three.
Okay, three. I went to public school.
So did I.
So what I would encourage you to do is to realize that it's much harder to get people to come to a meeting to support something than it is to get people to come to a meeting to oppose something. And the political rule of thumb is, for every one person who comes to a meeting and testifies, there are 10 people in the general public who sat in front of their TVs or didn't come out. So, you can do that math. And that's pretty accepted stuff. I mean, you can talk to Hibbets or any of the polling place folks, and they'll tell you the exact same thing. So I think it's a pretty clear sign that that the people of Oregon City don't support this charter amendment, and they do support the Rivers Project. So now it's incumbent upon you who campaigned on the other side of the issue, and that's fine. None of us are going to be on the same side all the time. I mean, look at me and Dan Fowler. But now it's time to change your mind. And when you go back to the Urban Renewal Commission, you have to change your mind there too, because it's clear as a bell. Mr. Smith, you've had your vote at this point. It must be clear as a bell to you that that maybe the election didn't tell you what you want to know, but I would guess at this meeting and the pressure that you've had from various groups certainly may have told you that. The last thing I will say is that we do have. There isn't a single one of the subsidiary taxing districts that is opposed to this project. The school district doesn't oppose it. The fire district doesn't oppose it. The police don't oppose it. The Chamber of Commerce supports it. I don't know how you could not vote to support this project and to kill this and to kill this charter amendment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I guess there's no more public testimony. I want to make a comment. I was concerned when you have a big group like this that things would become unruly. You're about the ruliest people I've ever met. So thank you very much. We're going to go on with our business, but I did want to make one comment. I'll be bringing forward for the next meeting a motion from the City Commission to invite CenterCal to present the draft development agreement to the Urban Renewal Commission. I'll be doing that at the meeting on the 16th. Now I guess we get to discuss this thing. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sure people have comments.
I will kind of state some of what I said at the meeting on Monday night. Before I do that, I really want to say I should be at teacher conferences or parent-teacher conferences tonight. And I usually, as part of my job, I usually miss meetings on Wednesday nights that it happens to fall on a conference. But tonight, definitely wanted to be here, and I appreciate the fact that I was able to do that. I was talking to my sixth grade teacher in the audience at a break, and about school, etc. But one of the things that I mentioned was this meeting tonight and the last week meeting on Monday. I kind of looked at, I put this together tonight, as I do parent-teacher conferences. I kind of dread them all day long, and then once I go to it, I think that was actually really great. And so it was, I just really appreciate being here tonight and seeing so many people that I've, lived with my whole life. I was born in Oregon City, went to Oregon City High School, work at Oregon City High School. So I've gotten to know all of you so well. when I ran 2 years ago, Oregon City was a different place. And one of my concerns at that time was city services. And I didn't support the annexations. And I didn't support the annexations because we were not serving the city. You know, the police department was a major concern. Fire, schools, that was my major concern. We've changed, even in just 2 years, a little bit. The police department is doing quite well. School district, instead of having many, many students, now is losing students. So things change in 2 years. I made a lot of, you know, goals for what I would do when I was here as a commissioner. But the one goal that I really wanted to fulfill was listening to the citizens. And that's what I've been doing the last week. That's what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. But it has been a great experience. We take this very seriously. We really do, all of us up here. This is, you know, you don't give up 4 years of your life to go through this just because. We all live in this town. We love it. That's the one thing that all of us in this room have in common. This is an amazing place, this city. We talk about the fact that there's this weird vibe in Oregon City that people don't want to leave. You know, there's over 20-some people at the high school that went to that high school that are now working there. There's something about this town, and we all know it. And the reason that I ran as a commissioner at the time that I did was because I know, like everyone else, that whatever happens in the next few years is going to determine where Oregon City goes in the future. It is something that hasn't happened in my entire lifetime, or probably the lifetimes of most of the people sitting in this room. And I appreciate the fact that even in controversial decisions that, you know, people come out, because that's when the discussion starts. And so I'm listening to everybody. That's how I'm going to make my decision tonight. That's how I'm going to make my decision in the future for the rivers. I don't make my decision before I come into the room. I have to talk to as many people as I can, and that's what I've been doing. And I hope that's what everyone here does tonight. What I said on Monday night was my concern when I campaigned 2 years ago and before that, a lot of the support, I believe, for the charter amendment or the right for citizens to vote on urban renewal, I think a lot of that really came from a disappointment in the citizens in some really horrible, bad decisions that this city made with urban renewal money. And I still believe that there was some bad decisions. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean change everything. But it does mean look at what's going on, change the things that need to be changed, have the discussion that needs to happen, and I think that's what we're going to do. I made the comment that I'm still willing to talk about this voting process, but I don't think it should go on the May ballot. I don't think a week talking about it is enough to make a decision that big. So I'm not going to recommend that tonight, and that's what I said on Monday, and that's what I'm going to say tonight, and so I'm anxious to hear what everyone else has to say up here as well. But I want to I appreciate the students that came out tonight, the group of students at the beginning. 2 of those are in my class right now at Oregon City. Graham Peterson, can you believe he was one of my students? I don't know So I appreciate everyone coming out tonight, and we do listen to you, and we appreciate the time that you put in to come here. Thanks.
I wasn't one of your students, Rocky.
No, you weren't. But I did, you did come in, you know, when I served coffee really bad coffee when I worked at the Carnegie Center, so.
Yes, I didn't think it was bad. It was pretty good.
Oh.
Other commissioners want to make some introductory comments here.
Yes, I'd like to. Well, I've been very impressed. I've been very impressed with the audience here tonight, and you have made me want to reconsider what I've been thinking in what I came into this thinking I was voting for. I do believe that there are still issues, like Rocky said. We have had some extremely poor decisions in this city, and I do think we need to look at a way of rectifying what has happened, a way of checking so that we don't have those things happen again. But I've heard some very good arguments here tonight, and I would like to let people know that I'm going to be reconsidering voting for this charter amendment at this time.
And I, too, do appreciate everybody coming. And I just want you to notice the stack of emails that we received. This was amazing. And there was like only, I think, 3 or 4 that were, no, we don't want the rivers. And yes, we want to vote. So this is amazing stuff. Thank you, guys. At this time, I'd like to put forth a motion to...
We're getting some introductory statements
sorry.
here, so, yes.
I was just excited.
I'd like to say a few words tonight. When a citizen takes the plunge and decides that he or she is going to enter politics, there might be 2 basic skills that a budding elected official should probably have. One is the ability to count. And having been here tonight, I do have that skill to be able to count. And I think I know what the results are from that count tonight. The other very basic skill is being able to listen. And I think I'm a pretty good listener. I listened when I was campaigning to all the people who had expressed concerns about what was going on in town with urban renewal, as Kathy and Rocky have expressed. And many of those individuals that I worked with and who supported me strongly supported the idea of being able to vote on urban renewal bonds as a mechanism to ensure accountability, to say to the people who are handling the public's money, you know, you handle that money well, or next time you try to come to us for that money, you ain't going to get it. And that would be an accountability mechanism for all the people and the public fisc. And so once Rocky and I were elected, we carried that through and did not succeed under the prior commission. And when Kathy was elected, obviously the first thing you think to yourself is, okay, now we've got, the support. The people have voted us in, and let's move forward. So, but every time that happens, there's always a learning process, including the law of unintended consequences. I was joking with a friend that I sometimes wish I could have January 1st back again, because I did not know, what my experience was telling me that when we brought this forward, the people who had supported us over the past 2 years on the charter amendment would be the ones populated in the room saying, at last. And it hasn't been that way. So I'm very impressed by that. And it's a learning process, and it's good to come out and let us know how you feel, and we're listening and we're taking that into account. I do want to also say tonight that I'm really impressed with the organizing effort that went on with the buttons, with the, I've been a community organizer for most of my adult life, and typically I'm in the audience, facing the people up on the dais, and I have the buttons on. And as I walked in tonight for the first time, when everybody was here, I suddenly had a blazing realization of what it must be like to be Hosni Mubarak right now.
I don't know about that.
So fortunately, we live in a democracy, and the people out there don't have to resort to what the people in Egypt have been. So, but I want to say a few things about what the process we've gone through. I don't think that the process we've gone through in the past 5 or 7 days has diminished the value of the idea of having voter accountability over urban renewal funds, because it is public money. There have been abuses in the past, including in this town. Whether this mechanism is the mechanism to achieve that, I think at least the consensus in this room is that it's probably not. But it's not the only way that that mechanism can be established. There are other cities in the metro region that have voter provisions whereby instead of strictly focusing on the bond issuance and voter approval of the bond issuance, they have voter approval of plans and plan amendments. And those plans actually include the description of the type of financing in them. And that may be another way of doing it. But I still, am very convinced that that's a good thing to do. I believe very strongly in grassroots democracy and accountability, and I think there is a way to develop and implement a mechanism for urban renewal that has, maximum public participation and accountability in it. One model I'm really attracted to is what's going on in Beaverton right now, because they do have voter approval of urban renewal. And what they did with it over the past couple of years is they coupled it with a community visioning plan, where the whole plan for the urban renewal district was developed by the entire community in that visioning process. And then the city leaders developed a plan based on that visioning process, and then they are taking it to a vote. And I had spoken at a conference with a Beaverton city councilor who thought that she was really excited by the fact that the citizens had ownership of that process, and the development of plan would lead them to approve the plan when it finally went to a vote, even though in previous years Beaverton had problems with earlier projects like the Round, which is kind of a famous mess up. So I'm not giving up on some form of voter oversight and approval of urban renewal. I think the question is what form it would take. So someone had suggested just dropping all of this stuff, and I just don't agree. And I don't agree also because I think some of the other amendments which didn't get commented on tonight have merit. And this whole process has highlighted one of them, our problem with split votes. I mean, there has been the argument made that, one of the races this year had a three-way split, and most of the people who ran, the two that ran and didn't win, supported the Rivers and didn't support urban renewal voting. And if their votes had been combined, one of them, that outlook would have prevailed on the City Commission. Well, there's a mechanism for doing that. One is a runoff, which Mayor Neely proposed, and another one is an instant runoff, which doesn't have the problems that brought up having, the cost of two special elections. and not being able to, run for one office in the spring and one in the fall. So each of these charter amendments there is merit in discussing them. And I don't think we should just drop these charter amendments. I think one of the alternatives that has been proposed has been a commission of some sort. I've heard other proposals mentioned, like a constituent suggested electing the municipal judge. So there's, a lot of types of thoughts that can be put in, and I think what we need to do is figure out a specific process for getting that going, because I think there's a lot of issues that are pressing and need to be addressed, like the water rate rollback amendment that Nancy Krushower mentioned the other night, that the resolution to that might be in a charter amendment. So I would like to proceed with considering the best process for considering these amendments.
I'd like to make a motion.
Wait, everybody got to make an introduction here. I get one, too. If in fact, and I think maybe based on the sentiment, I think Senator Cowell would consider bringing before their draft agreement. It's going to be a draft agreement. There's going to be input from us. What they bring forward will not be the final product. There's always discussions about what's perceived as other things that are good for the city in the process, and we'll probably all have input. So my guess is the Urban Renewal Agency is going to have the opportunity to look at that project, and that's what that motion next time will be. With that?
Now I can? I'm so excited. Okay, well, I want to make a motion that we table all three of the charter amendments until we can discuss this further and have more public input, or no.
I'll second with a proviso that if anybody came here and stuck around to address the other two, we would give them a chance to public comment on that. But otherwise, I'd second that. I hear no more discussion. Roll call, please. Not the roll call, the vote, please.
Okay. Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Mum?
Aye.
And Mayor Neely?
Aye. I'd like to burn it. You can clap now. Anyway, was there anybody that wanted to speak specifically to the other charter amendments? I'll take them in order. Charter amendment for the City Commission to appoint the city attorney. Is there anybody who wants to speak to that? Okay, be sure to register with our recorder after you speak. You can do it, but I see. Yes. Why don't you all three step forward, and then I'll let you introduce yourselves.
William Gifford, Derek Beneville, and Patty Brown are already signed up.
Okay, they've already signed up. Very good. Name, rank, serial number.
I'm losing it here. Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, my name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City, and I wanted to speak to the amendment, to the proposed charter amendment regarding the City Commission's position to hire and fire the city attorney. And the thought just occurred to me tonight, and just for what it's worth, I just wanted to throw this out there, about the potential of a conflict of interest to have the city attorney writing the words to an amendment as to who would hire the city attorney. Just a little recursive, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
He does what he's told to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
By a majority of the City Commission.
I just want to bring up the question that there's a potential for a conflict of interest.
Thank you.
My name is Derek Benville. I live in Oregon City. The Commissioner's duties is to provide guidance and set policy for the best interest of Oregon City. It is the city's manager and his staff to implement the direction given by the Commissioners and create policies that adhere to the law. The city attorney is just one of those tools to be used by the city manager.
You're the city manager's boss. If you don't like who he has hired, bring it up to him. This has no business being in the charter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patty Brown.
Pretty much the same sentiment.
But you got to introduce yourself anyway.
Okay, I'm Patty Brown. I'm a citizen of Oregon City, and I've spent a lot of years working within the legal environment in the big city of Portland, and for some of the very large firms. This job that Mr. Sullivan does here for this city is a very complex and a very specialized field. You can get a lawyer that costs a little more somewhere, but that doesn't mean that he's going to have the specialties that this man has. And I don't think that we, the people, are equipped to, or the city commissioners here at all times are equipped to make that judgment. I think that what you have in place, you've had good people here in the 30 years I've lived here, and I don't see a good enough reason to change that policy of how that comes into being, who's going to be your city attorney.
I know you weren't suggesting that. I would just mention that I think every member of this commission realizes the valuable services that our attorney gives us and how excellent an attorney he is. We all recognize that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
And one more, Terry Stewart.
Terry Stewart. Oh, she passes. The other charter amendment we had before us here was for amendment electing city, basically going through a primary system for electing city commission positions. Is there anybody that wishes to speak to that? We have nobody signed up. Well, good. Well, I guess we get to go on to the next item, which is resolution number 1104, calling a public hearing for the creation of an economic improvement district. Does this go to Dan Drentlaw, I presume? Or who does it go to? No.
We're not working here. Can you hear me now?
You may take center stage.
It's on. Okay, thank you, members of the commission. This is the second attempt at an economic improvement district to fund downtown activities. If you'll recall, this was last at the commission on December 1st, 2010. And that was the second public hearing for this proposal. And at that time, we received opposition in writing that represented more than 33% of the property owner's assessed value in the downtown area. And based on that, the commission was not able to approve the EID. At the direction of the commission, the downtown Main Street manager and the City of Oregon City put together a second proposal. The second proposal, you see, reduced the boundaries as shown in the enclosed map. So as a first step tonight, we're asking that the commission consider a resolution that sets the process for a public hearing both tonight and then on March 16th. At the March 16th meeting, we will have a public hearing, and at that point, comments regarding the assessment rates will be discussed. So again, tonight we have two steps. The first step would be to authorize the mayor to sign Resolution 11-04. And once you complete that discussion, we'll move to the second phase, which is the public hearing and discussion of the ordinance that actually establishes the improvement district. I think at this point, I'll summarize the resolution, which again sets a public hearing on March 16th, 2011, to set the assessment rate. And it also requires the city to send out notice 30 days prior to that meeting. And once you take an action on that resolution, I'll go into some more details about the actual ordinance creating the EID.
Does anybody, I know I have a couple of questions. Anybody have a question? Mr. Smith.
I'm looking at the map, and the map is color-coded. Unfortunately, the two greens are like the same, virtually the same color, so it's hard to see a difference with that, but representing whether it's public or private. And then looking at the orange section, I'm kind of wondering if there's something more to describe the orange businesses rather than excluded because their orientation to Highway 99E, because there's a lot of other businesses there that are in that same situation. So are these just businesses that are not supportive of, or can you explain the difference? Why the other properties along 99E are not orange and they're green?
Well, the primary thinking behind that is that the core of downtown, which we sometimes refer as the 100% blocks, which have the highest, generally have the highest activity and highest rents, are between 7th and 10th, and you'll see that we've captured both sides of...
And then you have 12th because of the... Okay. I see.
Right.
Thank you.
I still have a question. Any other questions? I think the one stood up. Most of those orange ones are really clustered together. You have that one outstanding one, though, that's on 10th Street on McLaughlin that seems to be isolated from the other orange ones.
Yeah, that's the gas station.
Okay, that makes sense.
The Chevron.
Okay. That's a pass-through business.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, I plan to go into some more detail on the ordinance once you pass the resolution and once we have the public hearing.
Sure, I understand. Are there any other questions? I don't know if we need Mr. Purdy to speak. He indicates he doesn't feel the need to. And does somebody want to go ahead with a motion then?
Did anybody sign up to speak? No.
No.
Well, I'm sorry, yes.
Do you have somebody signed up to speak?
Again, what I'm recommending is you pass the resolution, then we move into the public hearing on the actual ordinance, two-step process.
If we have people here that want to, I have no problem with people speaking before we pass the resolution if you have some people. We will have a public hearing when an ordinance comes to us too, but we've had somebody hang around this long. Is there somebody?
But I think
There's 6. We're going to do it simply because people have been here so long. Okay?
Don Slack, Nick Vorosky, John, Simba, I'm sorry, I can't read it, Dan Fowler, Glenn Butler, and Rob Crocker.
Yes, I'm getting a Mr. Mayor. He says, I don't know whether anybody can hear me or not.
I'll just speak up loudly.
He'll just speak up loudly.
You still need on video. You still need to be.
Thanks. I just want to recommend, as a matter of process, that you pass your resolution first and then open your public hearing.
We can do that.
Just in case there's any kind of challenge later.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Mom?
Aye.
Mayor Neely?
Aye.
Don Slack, Oregon City, and I'm not going to take a lot of time. You know where I stand. I just want to make it public that I'm obviously in favor of this EID. It has great potential for what we're doing downtown, and so I look forward to the city's support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick Vorosky, Portland.
I understand that this ordinance would cost me about $2,500 a year for my property, and I'm in support of it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Two 2,500s. That's 5,000 so far.
Dan Fowler, Oregon City, also downtown business owner. This went out once before, and it failed. And I think the mark of a good leader is that you do change. And Lloyd brought this back, and the membership of the Downtown Association and the Main Street Group reconvened. And we said, what was the message? Because it didn't pass. And we said, well, maybe it was too long, maybe it was too much. And so we changed the boundary to be what we think would be a little fairer or a little better. We lowered the length of time on the proposal, and we lowered the amount. And so we tried to make it to where it would be less of a burden on the businesses, but it would still accomplish, because we didn't want to lose momentum. Lloyd and the downtown group, I mean, they've worked so hard. They've got tremendous grants for the city and tremendous attention for the city. And so we hope that through those actions, by far, the majority of the businesses now will find it that they can support the EID. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crocker?
Rob Crocker, building and business owner on Main Street. I'm also now vice president of the Main Street organization. I'd like to parrot what Mr. Fowler said, and that it didn't pass the first time, and we did talk to those property owners, many of whom didn't really understand it. So once they did understand everything that was involved, they changed their mind, their opinions. And many that we talked to also didn't agree with terms, with the amount of the fees, and some didn't feel that they really benefited enough to be involved in the process. So we took that all into account and came up with a new proposal that we thought was more fair. And I think you will find it very fair. The other thing I want to mention is that Main Street is one of the most positive things we have going for Oregon City right now. I mean, without a doubt, we hear that from all the consultants who come in. We hear that from many of the surrounding communities, how amazing our Main Street is, and that's largely due to Lloyd Purdy. And we run out of funding this spring. If we don't pass an EID, which is a self-imposed fee that we, the downtown property owners, pay for, we're probably going to lose Lloyd. And if we lose Lloyd, that's bye-bye Main Street, Oregon City. And we cannot afford that, especially with the Arch Bridge rehab project. We need everything we can to help develop and recruit businesses, to help develop and recruit shoppers, and to help recruit visitors downtown. So I strongly urge that we move forward with this. And I'd also like to say that my business partner and I, we're on the hook. We understand that this is going to cost us between $10,000 and $15,000 a year, and we're for it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, two more to come, is that right?
I'm Glenn Butler, live in Beaverton. Have property in downtown Oregon City. The family's had it, started with my grandfather, for over 75 years. I'm one of the pieces that objected to it. I have tenants that object to it. I'm concerned about several things in it, and one that you brought up to start with, and that's the properties that were left out and how they were. I think with the bridge closure and the economic condition, I'm concerned, and some of my tenants are, that they're going to be able to make it in that part. And I've asked Dan pertaining to how they determined the revised boundaries of the district and got the ones that approved and disapproved. And it seems like there's an inconsistency. We're on McLaughlin and 8th there in the corner, and we're also up on Railroad Avenue and 7th. And so we're opposite side of the block from Main Street. I agree with the project as far as we need the help downtown. We have for a lot of years, and what Bob Stein had to say and others had to say have been problems downtown for years and years, and we really need the help. I have the concern of some of my tenants, like I said, pertaining to the assessments, and I'm staying in business. So I'd like at least that to be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we have one more to come?
Well, Commissioner Mum was asking again.
Where was
for
your
the
property?
One was 8th and Main, or 8th and 99, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Was there one more speaker?
John Simba, I'm sorry, I can't read the writing.
Or somebody who signed
John,
up here?
300 Beaver Creek Road, Oregon City.
Maybe he's left then.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to the an ordinance for introduction. I believe it's Mr. Grantlaw.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Commissions, point out a couple of changes from the last ordinance. The basic structure is the same. The assessment's based on assessed value. One thing that has been lowered is the cap on the maximum fee. It's been reduced to $19.50. So the most any property owner would pay would be that amount. The other thing that's addressed in this ordinance is that it allows the city to pursue a non-payment through a number of ways. One is through refusal for the city to issue business license and other city permits, or through a court-ordered judgment and a legal remedy. So that was added to the ordinance. And then the other thing that changed is that the assessment is based on what is called the primary business user of the property. So you may have a property and a property owner, but if the building is not used for any business, in other words, it's completely vacant, then there is no charge assessed. So that's a modification from the last one. And the result of that, in addition to reducing the size of the area, is that the potential revenue produced through the EID would be approximately $99,000, which is less than the original one, which was $135,000. And other than that, the ordinance is similar to the last one that we discussed.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is not for action, but this is for comment. Is that correct?
No, this is for action.
But it's not a first reading of an ordinance.
First reading.
It is the first reading.
Yes, and then again, we'll send out. If you approve the first reading, we'll send out a notice for the March 16th meeting, which would be a second reading only if you approve it, and only if the opposition in writing that we receive is less than the 33%.
Could you, I guess a little confusing on my part, the basis for this resolution and then having an ordinance right after the resolution? I'm a little confused with the process.
I think the resolution is nothing more than a vindication, I guess, of the requirement that we send out the 30-day notice.
Okay.
And that we establish the second hearing date of March 16th.
By that time, people will, because you're talking about March, the second meeting of March.
Correct.
So by that time, you will have the input you require for pursuing the second reading.
Exactly. Again, so we have to send out this next notice, and that notice will go to all property owners in the proposed district boundaries, and it will also have what their proposed assessment rate is. So that's why it's a two-step process.
I guess the confusion I had here was I don't see the recommendations that actually have I guess it's approve the enclosed ordinance. Well, I guess it is a first reading, but I guess I was looking for the first reading. The basis, I'm just kind of, we do a first reading and we don't know whether it's going to happen or not, then we do the second reading.
Correct. That's right. It's a unique situation. Oregon revised statutes sort of force us to do this two-step process.
Oh, okay. And to have an ordinance before we actually go out with things?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Are there any questions?
No.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Well, no, I think we had a little bit more than that.
It's a motion for first reading.
It's a motion for first reading. Okay. Is that all we need?
Well, you have a second?
Oh, second.
Having done that.
This is ordinance number 11-1001, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City creating the Downtown Economic Improvement District.
Thank you.
Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Mum?
Aye.
Mayor Neely?
Aye. Gee, we're going through things fast now, aren't we? Okay, got general business. We've got Resolution 1101, City Commission Rules of Procedure. I believe then that our city recorder, Mrs. Nancy Ida, is going to speak to this.
Actually, before that,
Did I miss something?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to table that item. I had raised holding off on it, the discussion earlier, until we had our session with the Glazers at the retreat, because I wanted to get the benefit of that experience and finally reviewing this. And because of the importance of the charter amendment discussions, it wasn't really possible for me to review.
Oh, this is one of the items, you mean?
Yeah, I'd like to
Oh,
table number 7 to the next meeting.
Right. We didn't get through all, in fact, we didn't get through all that many of the items that we had on our retreat roster, and that's going to be coming up. So,
If there's no objection.
is there no objection? We'll just table this?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to suggest something. If commissioners would take another look, take your time to look that over, and then, unless there's an objection, we'll go ahead and try to put that on the consent calendar, because I think the only changes we made were the ones that you directed us to make. But, of course, with the caveat that if you see something on there between now and then, there will be no one crying foul on the staff side if you want to pull it off. But that way you won't have to deliberate the whole thing again unless there's something you want to talk about. Would that be acceptable to the commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, so that is tabled. We have the consent agenda. We've already passed on 8E. Do I have a motion for the rest of the consent agenda?
Move to approve consent
Second.
agenda. I didn't even finish.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call? Excuse me, vote?
Commissioner Roth?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Mum?
Aye.
Mayor Neely?
Aye. Passes
Passed.
unanimously. I guess we're going to have, this is the time for the city manager's report and other communications, but Mr. Frazier?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few things tonight. Tomorrow night, I'm meeting with the Kanema Neighborhood Association, and this will be, I think, my last. Now I will now have checked off every single neighborhood association we have, except for one that I think is not meeting any longer. But I think William Gifford's trying to change that. So if he gets that changed, then I'll go to that one. And then in the last 11 months or 10 months, I will have gone to every one of them. I want the commission to know that I and your senior staff are committed to continuing that rotation. So just because I've been to all of them doesn't mean I'm not going back. We're going to keep doing that as part of the process. And last weekend at the retreat, the consensus of the commission was to add or continue to have citizen participation as one of your goals. And I get evaluated in April on my annual evaluation on the success of citizen participation, so I hope you remember. I didn't have anything to do with all these people being here, but you really helped me get that done. Then also I wanted to let the commission, I'm going to give you a copy of something that you remember that we're trying to get interest from developers in those sites that we have in the downtown. And so we have an advertisement that isn't going out tonight. It's not out yet. But I just thought it'd be nice for you to see what we're doing before you read it in the newspaper. So I'm going to hand this out.
I got a question about that.
That's nice.
I don't recall us having a discussion on actually sending them out for bid.
Oh, it's not a bid. Dan, can you explain?
This is just a joint effort between Main Street and the city. There are a couple of properties there that are that Lloyd has been working with to advertise their availability. And then we also put in the schematics for the development opportunity sites to see if there's any interest out there. This isn't for a proposal. It's just simply letting people know that we have property that we might consider for development in the future.
Have property that we might consider for development in the future.
One thing we talked about when we reviewed what was called the Development Opportunity Study, you'll recall we went through that process last year, and we had a market analyst look at the property, and we also had some design ideas.
Mm-hmm.
We took that by the Urban Renewal Commission, and one of the next steps was to see if there was any interest out in the development community.
One of the next steps, whose next steps?
The staff's next step.
Okay, just so you know, this is getting into that area again of the concerns that have been expressed about, I don't want to use the bad terms that we've used, but...
Well, it reminds me of the intent and impact, so let's talk about that real quickly.
Before this comes as a proposal to the City Commission to talk about it and its ramifications, I don't support it.
Okay, so let me make sure that we're on this, we have the same information. So my understanding was when you went out for grants and you got Metro to fund partially a plan for these two sites that the city owns, right? We agree on that? So then Metro brought back the plans and they presented them they were concepts, and they brought the concepts back to you and we all saw them. And the commission was pretty enthusiastic about one and not so enthusiastic about the other one. And those are the two drawings that you see right here on the properties that the city owns.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next steps that we understood from the commission that you wanted us to advance was that's why you bought these properties, to see if somebody would want to redevelop on them.
Yes.
What this is doing is saying, does anybody want to redevelop on these properties?
Mm-hmm.
And here, by the way, are some drawings. You're not bound by those. You don't have to stick with those. They're just showing that these are vacant sites if you want. And we're soliciting interest from developers to see if they do have proposals that we could bring to you. If you don't want us to do this, we're okay not doing it. I think it was just we were trying to keep the interest moving in the downtown, and if we got proposals, of course, we would bring them immediately to you so that you could see what was coming in.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of ramifications to doing something like this. For example, if it's done before we have, like you and I, met with the gentleman from Gresham on and having specific, a special area plan for downtown or specific design standards. I mean, this just kind of really
seems too fast.
Scratches at my anxiety about piecemeal development and what might happen.
Well, this is why I'm bringing this in my reports.
Yeah.
So if everybody has anxiety, we can either put on a work session and talk about the ad or talk about what you want us to do next. If you want us to take a time out while you think about it some more.
Are these both properties owned by the Urban Renewal Agency?
They are.
Yes.
Okay, then I would propose that this be in an Urban Renewal Agency item agenda to talk about where this efforts fits into the larger context of what the Urban Renewal Agency wants to do for downtown in the coming months. Just, running off on this is, it's, I hate to use that word blindsiding, but.
Well, I wish you wouldn't use that word, because if we were blindsiding, I wouldn't be here talking to you about it. We're actually trying to get feedback. It's not an action item. I saw this for the first time this afternoon, and I thought, gosh, this would be something the commission would be interested in seeing. So we're actually trying to avoid blindsiding. Lloyd, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was going to, before we come to this, I'll recognize Lloyd in a minute. I'm just reading through this, and there's one thing that bothers me I'll talk to you a little bit about later, but not here in the public. But in terms of what's presented here, I don't think there's an issue. There's not specific reference to the designs.
Right.
There are pictures of a couple of existing buildings and some conceptual things that are out there, but I don't have any angst with this flyer. I don't see the flyer has an issue because it's not, let's just say for information about development opportunities, redevelopment opportunities, and direct them to Lloyd Purdy and direct them also to our Economic Development Office, but I don't think there's anything that indicates these are designs that we're putting out there for anybody to act on. So I don't have a problem with the flyer, and I don't think there's personally any reason that has.
Graham Peterson, who is both
That's what I was going to talk about afterwards.
who is both an urban renewal commissioner and a private developer, and why we are associating,
Get that clarified.
having our Oregon City logo on that when that partnership hasn't been approved. I'm troubled by this.
I'm troubled by the former, and I was going to mention that out, not in the public meeting, but the fact is that struck out. I noticed that too.
I think
yes, go ahead.
I feel compelled to add some information on this. This graphic you're looking at is an ad that was taken out by the nonprofit Main Street Oregon City, of which Oregon City is a partner. In fact, those graphics are as much my graphics or downtown's graphics as the city's. Those aren't proprietary graphics. And in that the city is a partner in the programs we do downtown, per the request of city staff, I've included those graphics on our blue-collar creative business recruitment efforts. I felt it was appropriate to include them in this promotion. But let me clarify that this is a privately funded advertisement. The intent is really to continue to do what we've been doing downtown, which is put downtown on the map as a place where tenants may want to relocate, where developers who are good at infill development downtown may want to relocate. So it's an informational piece funded with private funding, in fact. That would be why Graham Peterson's name is listed. He's representative of those two private properties. And my goal here on this ad was to show all the potential of downtown Oregon City.
I recognize that, Lloyd, but the fact is...
I'm suggesting maybe you all are reading a little too much into this.
Well, I think not, because you're launching on a process that concerns properties that are owned by the City of Oregon City's Urban Renewal Agency without even having engaged the Commission in a dialogue about this, which concerns me. And again, my suggestion would be not to proceed until this has been placed on an agenda item before the Urban Renewal Agency.
If I could make a suggestion, I want to try to make sure every single commissioner is comfortable, and I think I have a way of maybe getting there. That would be, Lloyd, would you be willing to come to Urban Renewal Commission meeting and ask them if they want to partner and have these properties listed in the privately funded ad, or is there a timing issue there?
Good question. Happy to continue to partner with Urban Renewal on all we're doing downtown. This ad has been, the deadline for it was February 1st for submission, so it's been reserved and submitted to the Daily Journal of Commerce. So if it's not putting the cart before the horse, I'd be happy to talk to the Urban Renewal Commission about what we are doing downtown and some of our initiatives that include promoting development opportunities, which is really the extent of this.
So the ad is out, is essentially what you're saying?
Did you ask if it was out?
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, it's been, yeah.
It's a fishing expedition.
I've said that before, Commissioner Betty, that developers do it all the time. They go fishing. They show a really pretty picture and say, let's head this way.
Yes.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm fishing for developers that may be interested in downtown. Through the downtown program, we will be holding some downtown dialogues, some conversations with a range of developers.
Yeah.
That's at my best what we do. This is very much in line with my
This
process.
is not a done deal
there's
by
no-
any stretch of the imagination, because there's no deal.
There's no deal.
But it's a
right?
done deal in that
It's
you've
already
already
going to
paid
print.
for it, and you're already publishing it.
Right.
I'm asked, I guess, let me remind you all of the intent of this ad. It's to, and hence why phone numbers, in fact, were included. It was for people to say, oh, I'm interested in that downtown. Who should I talk to about development opportunities? That's the only thing that's been proffered in that. But I'd be happy to talk to the Urban Renewal Commission as a whole if that's where this conversation needs to lead.
Yeah, why don't you? And it's out, so.
I don't have any problem with the idea of the flyer at all, but I do have concerns about the one urban renewal commissioner being listed there specifically. I think
He's a listing agent for
I
his properties.
understand that, Lloyd. I mean, that's but it sends an image, and we need to be really careful with that. So I don't know. I guess.
We went through very long and somewhat uncomfortable discussions on the Urban Renewal Commissioners about potential conflict of interests. In, for example, sitting Urban Renewal Commissioners receiving money from the Urban Renewal Commission, and now this seems to leave open the possibility of sitting Urban Renewal Commissioners being favored in an ad that could result in the purchase of urban renewal property by a party represented by that sitting Urban Renewal Commissioner.
I don't think he's the person that would do that for those two properties.
Yeah, that's why we've said, in fact, if you're interested in city development, you would contact your economic development.
You
guess the
don't
point is
think
we-
that
I
someone
guess-
interested in 514 Main Street and seeing Graham Peterson's name there couldn't also use Graham Peterson to express interest in the property owned by the Urban Renewal Agency?
I think you could just direct him to talk to the urban renewal.
Yeah. But
I guess the point is we should have a discussion about it, which is what we're doing now, but it probably should have happened before an ad went into the paper or on.
And what I'm going to say is the reason this is coming up now is because my process for downtown is often a different process from the city's deliberative process. That's as simple as that. That's why a partnership with downtown often works well. We have a different.
Yeah, I personally don't have
I would
much
recommend
answer.
we stop the ad.
Oh, the money's been invested. I mean, you can put a motion to do it if you want to, but I don't know, I don't think it can affect him.
I mean,
He's
I
not-
think the ad's a great idea, but I think there needs to be some changes made to it.
How much money were you talking about?
The half-page ad in the DJC is I'm guessing it was $1,600.
Lloyd, can I ask you, since you've already got the ad basically paid for, would there be a possibility that you could simply delete the Oregon City logo? Would that help the commission feel more comfortable?
No.
No? Okay.
No, because it's got our...
It helps a
It's
little.
done. It's a done deal.
Okay.
So for future.
If I hear a
for
motion to
future-
that effect, we can do it, but I'm not hearing a motion.
Pardon me?
I don't know if discussion's been.
These are going to be ads placed in newspapers?
This is one ad.
Yes.
This is specifically one half-page full-color ad going in the February 22nd edition of the Daily Journal of Commerce.
And has that already been reserved?
Right.
So that cat's out of the bag, in other words.
That's what I'm saying
Well,
is,
Water under the
If
bridge.
you can always call an advertiser and say, can we get you a new ad?
I move to strike the logo from
Yeah, but-
the ad. I don't know if you understand, I'm a graphic design major, I don't know if you understand the importance and what some simple message like a logo does.
So, Commissioner Smith, Rocky, why don't I suggest that you ask if the downtown program would consider removing the city's logo from...
Well, I thought that was just asked.
Well,
He's not the person that would make the decision,
well,
I think.
I do make the decision on that, on the way that ad looks. Now, if you are telling your city manager to tell your, or him or economic development director that that ad needs to be removed, I will endeavor to get that done. That logo, I will endeavor to get that done.
I'd prefer the ad get canceled until the Urban Renewal Agency has had a chance to discuss this.
But the Urban Renewal Agency doesn't control that content.
Yeah.
It's privately.
Yeah. This is a partnership that we entered into, is that correct?
Right, but we as the city control the logo and what money we put into this ad, which we didn't, I don't think, right?
Doesn't
so we
control
can
the
control the logo.
Right. So
I mean,
if I was wrong to follow my direction from the city manager and the economic development director to include that logo in things we partner with to focus on blue collar creative, and which is what I thought I was doing. If that was wrong, I can try and get that logo removed because I worry about. I understand what you all are saying.
Well, I'm not, I mean, we're just concerned, I mean, if I saw this in the newspaper, I would be just kind of like, oh, well, you know, it's not a huge deal, but it sends a real message.
It sends a message
I think the
that Oregon
best thing
City
would be
supports
that,
economic development in downtown.
Well,
it shows, I think,
right,
a good
but
thing.
it also has other messages there, and we just got to be very careful with that.
Right. So what I can endeavor to do, if I'm asked, I can endeavor to remove that logo. Let me offer that. I will do my best to get an updated ad to the DJC that does not have the city logo.
If you're going to get that direction, you have to hear from the majority of the commission. I'm going to have to request a motion to do so.
I think there's
no need for that. No need for that. I will.
You're getting a request from 2 people on this commission, and I would say you need the request from 3 people on this commission. What I would say is that when it comes to these things, particularly striking these pictures in here, we're getting down to the point where we're really micromanaging a process.
Yes.
I think that if you were talking about the pictures, I think you would be micromanaging a process. They don't indicate that the city owns them. They don't indicate where they are, and nobody will know where they are because they don't exist.
Oh, wait, they do indicate where they are. It's got the address.
I guess they do.
We do reference.
But I don't think they say you got to do this if you buy the property. It's indicating that that's a possibility. And if we can go ahead and do this kind of thing, but all I think that's going to happen is we're going to be put in a position where we're micromanaging the activities of the Main Street program, and I think that's going to be a mistake.
Yes.
Now, you're going to hear, if you hear a motion to strike this thing, then we'll hear it, but I haven't heard a motion, and you got to get the direction from 3 people on this commission to do it. And I think we're micromanaging a program. Yes, sorry.
And I don't want to micromanage the program. I just want to say that I'm concerned about the image it sends out. That's all. I don't mind if it goes forward, it goes forward. My recommendation is, to make a change. If that's not going to happen, that's fine. I just want to be on the record that there are certain people that are uncomfortable with that. And I think, in the future, we need to be careful with how we use the image of the city in connection with individuals on certain committees and commissions and how that looks to the public. I think that's a real concern.
Okay.
Let me just say, I hear exactly what, Rocky, I understand exactly what you're getting at, and I agree, and I will consider that input very
I withdraw
carefully.
my motion.
I would like to echo that concern.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I hear what you all are saying.
I heard Commissioner Smith's concern seemed to be primarily tied to the logo. Am I correct?
Only because of the mention of an individual urban renewal commissioner and how that looks as a city stamp in conjunction.
My concern's deeper. I think if we're dealing with urban renewal-owned properties, then it's not micromanaging. It's just a fundamental issue of appropriateness that the urban renewal agency itself should make the decisions on how its properties are marketed. I don't know why that's rocket science.
Well, I'm not sure that we have any expertise on marketing. Well, we do have a graphic artist, I'm going to take that back, but the Urban Renewal Agency is not is an entity that if somebody was interested, they would come to the Urban Renewal Agency to
Mayor,
deal with it.
if I could, this is one of those no good deeds goes unpunished things. I got this afternoon, late this afternoon, and when I saw this, I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I thought you'd be interested. I wasn't sure how you'd be interested or what the feedback would be. In a perfect world, if I could do this over and I would have a discussion with these two fellows, I would say, well, let's, make sure that we check every possible box of objection and bring it to the Urban Renewal Commission and say, here's an ad we're thinking about doing.
You could do that, but we'll find some other boxes.
It's almost at some point, I wonder how much we're going to trust our instincts.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of moving parts happening every day, and I can almost guarantee the Urban Renewal Commission and each of you probably don't want to know every single thing we do, but I also understand this one. I got it. I think, Lloyd, you've got it. We're going to try to be more sensitive next time, and again, if I had seen this sooner, maybe I would have caught some of those things myself, but I think you've sent the message and we got it, and we'll come back to the Urban Renewal Commission next time we want to, if you guys want to do an ad using any of their properties or pictures or our logo, we'll have a more detailed discussion about it before you pay money for an ad.
Fine. And there's not a direction to move the ad from the commission. Okay.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Thanks.
Thank you for the discussion.
Thank you.
So we're ending my reports on lots of good news. Unfortunately, I have some other concerns about, we have been operating under the assumption, at least I have been, and I think several of our staff, and I think most of the commission, on the assumption that because we have money to build a library, and we've got it in our budget, not to build the whole thing, but to start the process, and that we knew that we could pay for this with our existing revenue streams, we thought we could just go find a piece of property, once we found it, purchase it, go through the process, then hire an architect and eventually construct a library through the leadership of the commission. But Section 57 of the charter presents a difficulty for us to do that. And I've asked the city attorney to look into it. He has done that. We'll probably be sending you a memorandum from him. I just have some notes here. Essentially, what 57 does for the city is it really ties our hands on GO bonds, revenue bonds, and floating indebtedness. To the extent that if we were to build a library, in this case, we'd put a significant down payment down, and then we would borrow, get a loan essentially, and pay back that mortgage with revenues that we know we're going to have coming in. Well, believe it or not, the definition of bond doesn't just mean a technical bond that the city would write under municipal bonding rules. It also includes any kind of indebtedness that extends for more than a year. And so with that wrinkle, we may in fact end up having to go to the voters to ask them to approve the indebtedness, even though we have the money to pay for it. I've never seen one of these animals in a city charter before, but we've got one, and we're going to be trying to deal with it as best we can, but I wanted you guys to be aware of that obstacle or whatever. It's somewhat unique. It's one of these things that was, I think, was one of these charter amendments that had other consequences maybe intended, and now we have this to deal with. Even when we have the money, we have a problem like this. So that will increase the expenses for the library to get built by whatever it costs to do that levy measure, and it'll also take time for commissioners to go around and advocate for approval of it, because as I know all too well, you can't advocate for a bond measure if you're
That charter amendment was triggered
or
by...
even talk about it. I'm not even going to talk about it.
Was triggered by...
That's how gun-shy I am.
That charter amendment was triggered by an initiative.
Yeah. So it's not like you don't have enough to do, but just be file that back there. We may have another wrinkle that we have to deal with, but Ed and I will get some sort of a memo out to you that tries to explain this in short, simple terms. So that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Well, I do have a few things to report. I have made some additional appointments. Appointment of Mary Moore to the Metro Enhancement Committee. That's terms from February 2nd, 2011, when I'm making the appointment, to December 31st, 2014. Appointment of William Gifford and Anthony Moore to the Oregon City Civic Improvement Trust. That's to 2014 as well. Appointment of Nancy Nunn to the Urban Renewal Budget Committee, also through 2013. Appointment of William Gifford to the Budget Committee, 2011. And reappointment of Nancy Shearer to the Clackamas Cable Access Board, and that term ends in 2012. The other thing I wanted to mention, I think we've heard a little bit about it, but there's this Army Strong Community Center that's coming to Clackamas Community College. These centers are being set up to serve veterans, serve reserves, serve individuals who really have families that are not located close to a military establishment. And this is particularly true of our reserve forces that go over and so forth. And they generally don't get the kind of support, or the support is more difficult for them to get. And so they're setting up these community centers, and Clackamas County, our Clackamas Community College is the site of this center that's going to be developed. It's the first one outside of the East Coast. There are 3 on the East Coast, and this will be the first one outside of the East Coast. It's because of the strong support that the college already gets to veterans in its program, and I think it was one of the major reasons that it was selected. So we'll be hearing more about this as the time comes. They do like covenants that involve as many organizations as possible, including the city, and we'll be talking about that later on. That's all I have to report.
Great. Thank you.
Does anybody have something else to report?
We do.
You want to go home?
Yes.
Meeting's closed.